Don't tell me what to make. I don't care about your take. It's my channel, and I do what I want.
All right. We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Oh my gosh. Well, hello everybody and welcome to Hobby Vomit. Hobby Vomit. I can't talk right now.
Hobby Vomit.
Hobby Vomit.
blah,
It shouldn't
blah.
be difficult to say. But I'm Ian and this is
I'm Matt. Hello.
Hello. Well, welcome back, and we are excited to be able to present part 2 of Midnight Tides. So we are in full force trekking through Midnight Tides, which has been really awesome. And so you guys know the drill. So for all of you that have not finished part 2, we're letting you know it's been great. And we're gonna start spoiling some stuff here pretty soon. So definitely finish part 2 and then come join us. We'll have 2 more parts, and then just as a reminder, when we get to part 4, we are gonna mix in our BARF review. So that's when we'll provide kind of our scores and our review of the book as a whole, rather than doing a fifth and follow up. And then that will also hopefully, I guess we'll have to see just with timing and everything, but that might also kind of shorten the amount of time we take in between books as well, because normally take about a few weeks off. And so that'll now kind of be when we're done from the book, rather than when we do the BARF review. So that'll be pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Anything else we need to go into before we jump into this one?
I think we just jump right in.
Okay, perfect. So do we want to go ahead and go with a high-level overview of what happened last time?
Sure. I guess I did not do my job and write that down.
I can.
Yeah,
I
if
can do that.
if you got it, you take it.
Yeah. So basically in the first book, as for most of these, there have been a few exceptions. We're setting up a lot of the pieces on the chessboard, and so the kind of first part was setting up the central conflict, which is namely that we have the Lethery, who are one prominent civilization with quite a populace. And then there are the Atista Eater, who we are familiar with, and in fact we have met one of the prominent characters, Troll Singar, who is a noble from the Atista Eater in a previous book, although that was after his exile. And so in this conflict, we are aware that the Lethery basically like to give false promises and then use that as a premise for conflict, for war and conquest. And so book 1 is leading us up to this meeting between the Lethery and the Atista Eater for them to renegotiate an agreement that they already have, and the Lethery have notably broken. And so this is kind of rising up towards a central conflict. And what we're kind of seeing is the factions at play, where we have a Warlock King who is doing something shady and putting Atista Eater nobles into jeopardy. There are Lethery factions that want war, some that don't want war, and they're all competing and vying to try to influence some of their party who will be present during this meeting. And it's basically just kind of setting up to be one grand Hollywood drama. And then that leads us into part 2.
That does lead us into part 2. Yeah, perfect. Great job. Well, you know what we didn't talk about last time that I saw this time? Yeah, it's not long, but what do they call like before every chapter? There's like the little like text from
what are those
quotation?
Called? I just call them quotations.
Epitaphs or something like that. Quotations.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, I know we talked briefly. Now we obviously know what the gift is because we've read part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's alreys so much for me to like swallow with Malazan that I do read those little quotes beforehand, but most of the time I'm like, that was good. I've actually heard suggested like you read it before the chapter and then you go read it each one again after the chapter, and it's just like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But before chapter 1, it's not even like the one above chapter 1. It's like it's like the part 1, because there's one at the start of every part as well. But this one is literally Hanan Masag's vision. Because when we're reading this for the first time, we're like, I don't know who this is. Hanan Masag. Obviously, we know now. It says, there's a spear of ice newly thrust into the heart of the land. The soul within it yearns to kill. He who grasps that spear will know death. Again and again he shall know death. I was like, oh, damn. That's the gift. That's the gift right there. Which, yeah, it is one of those, like, it's just so interesting to me. On a reread, you're going to be like, oh, I know who this character is. Yeah. I know what this means. But it's like, it's very clearly put there. I imagine it is put there in a way of like, Steven Erikson cannot expect us to know who that is yet, because we've not met this character yet. But I did find that interesting. It's like it's right there. And then also now, I guess if getting into part 2, dude, how did we not speculate that it was the sword? Like, how did we possibly not speculate for a second that it was the sword, the gift? Like, it to me,
not speculate that it was a sword.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the sword that Withal was being asked to master? Well, I mean, we hadn't seen the sword yet, right? He was just tasked to make one.
I know,
Yes,
but
it makes sense.
it's just like, what could this gift be? And then also, Steven Erikson loves swords, like cool swords, and it's just like, oh, it's right there. It was right there.
There's also a pretty cool hammer, though.
That's true. He does love some weapons, but now if there's ever any kind of object that's needed, it's a sword. I'm locked in.
Yep.
I'm locked in.
It's either a sword, most likely, slightly less likely, but still possible, a hammer, and even slightly less likely, but still possible, a booby railing.
A booby railing.
Are the three. It has to be one of these three things.
Gotta be one of those three things. Yeah.
Which, out of context, that would seem super weird. But if that's out of context, you haven't read this part, so you need to go back and read this part.
Do you like booby railings? Then read part 2. Skip the rest of Malazan. You don't need it. Just read part 2 of Midnight Tides, and you get that booby railing. But let's get into it. What, I guess real quick, what'd you think? What'd you think of the part?
I really liked it. I mean, I think it was setting up some just really cool characters. I'm glad that it actually ended before I thought it was going to, because I kind of figured that we would just basically get the diplomatic diplomatic meeting version of like a red wedding, right? Where, I mean, we might still get a red wedding, like we might get roulette.
I don't know particulars of red wedding. I've not seen it or read it. But I just know Game of Thrones and weddings are bad.
Well, I just meant more so like you use something that's obviously diplomatic as a cover to just murder everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like sort of the Trojan, it's the diplomatic version of like a Trojan horse, right? And so I kind of just figured, well, like Rulad takes over, so he's just gonna murder everyone, and that's still on the table. I mean, I've not taken that off the table. But I'm glad that we actually had like sort of a first diplomatic meeting, and it's still an ongoing negotiation. It's not just like, oh, you showed up, but now I'm the emperor, so F off. I'm glad that like that's actually still hanging there, and we're still sort of left in suspense as to where this is going. I think that's a really great way to set up for book 3, where we can actually kind of see how this whole situation is going to unfold, kind of leading us into the climax of the book. And I just like, it's just one of those things where it's, the other thing with the red wedding was like meant to be like surprise, where this one, it's just like, okay, here's this thing that's really important because there could be war. How do I just throw every wrench in the mix I can possibly think of, right? Like, let's just keep screwing it up and let's just figure out what happens. Like, it's very, very cool, I think. And it's just being jerked in all these different directions in ways I never would have expected. And so it's been fun.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed it a lot. We were talking a little bit before we started recording I feel like this was, while still a very eventful part, there wasn't as much maybe depth here. I felt there was sections of this where I was just like, almost like popcorn reading it. Like there were pages where I was just like, turn the page. Like I'm not missing anything by just like enjoying it. Where a lot of Malazan there is that. And so, yeah, I did like it. It felt like it did feel a little bit different. I mean, we talked about the booby railing. I liked that part. I do think by the end I was like, all right, like I think I was ready to move on from the humor. I think that's what's so great about Erikson's humor is usually subtle. Obviously that part is not subtle at all, and it's like 30 pages. And I was like, all right, I need a little breather. But
you need a cold glass of water is what you're saying.
I needed a cool I had to take bathroom breaks. Those booby railings. But and then I also felt like some of the chapters because there is a lot of just like meetings in Hieroth Village or in Letharis or whatever Lethar, the place.
I think it's Letharis. Yeah.
But we got to leave both of those cities when we went on the journey with the Sengar brothers, which felt very like it's the whole chapter. It felt like a very isolated chapter, but in a good way. It was like a breather. It was really exciting. That was another one. It just kind of read like popcorn. There's like some depth in there of like, oh, I kind of know where we're at, maybe with the history kind of things, but it was very much just like, ooh, like, oh, shit's going down. Oh, I can just like, I can't stop reading kind of thing. So that was a nice change of pace, I would say, for especially for a book 2 or part 2, because normally it's just like, here's introduction to part 1, part 2. It's like build up, basically. It's like build up part 1, and then part 3 is build up part 2, and then 4 is everything hits the fan. But I feel like there's a lot of eventful things, but maybe just not as much like depth as far as like I wasn't ever like, oh, well, what's this mean for the people in Letharis? Like in the count, all the king's people and everything. I wasn't really confused there. We talked with like 3 people over there, so it was nice. It just was like a very concentrated part for me.
Yep. Well, and I think it's just getting back to like classic Malazan, right? And we talked about it a lot with the last one in House of Chains, where just sort of the first book, and then sort of feels like you're starting with the second book. Like we're back to sort of classic. Like, no, we set it up in the first book. We're capitalizing the second book. We're setting up for a really good third book, right?
Yeah.
And it feels good. And I agree. I like that we're getting some of these. We get some of these other adventures, and again, sort of classic. And we've mentioned that before. Of like, you get a group of people together, and they kind of define a thread, right? Like, in this case, it was kind of fun because it was like the Sengar brothers, and that sort of paralleled like Karsa, and then
that's exactly what it reminded me of.
Yeah. What was it? Bayroth and then Delum Thord. Delum. And so it's like, but they were like they weren't blood related, but they were like, but like they'd grown up together and they were like brothers like forged in battle. So you kind of get that same sort of idea, and it was very cool, I think.
Yeah, I thought so too. And we'll get into that chapter because that chapter may have been my favorite part. Actually, that's probably not true. There's a lot of like, oh shit. I will say I brought it up last time because just the edition of the book I'm reading, there was like the light spoiler kind of thing, with like the art that's at the front of the book, which I no spoilers now because we've been here. But obviously we didn't know exactly who it was. It's probably hard to tell on camera, but he's covered in coins. So it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure one of these guys is going to come back to life after the burial rituals.
Yeah.
And he looks sick. So yeah, let me show you the other one now. Like, I don't think this really matches the description in the book, but it still looks cool. Like, he's got way less coins. In the book, he's like freaking covered except for his eyes, but it still looks badass.
I was going to mention this too when we talk about that, but it's just like they're like dripping off of him from time to time.
Yeah,
it's
he'll do a movement and one will like fall. Yeah,
fall off. Yeah, and I like it. It cracks me up that that's like a part of the storytelling, right? That just like these things are happening, and then like coins are just like falling off. I'm like, especially for like a diplomatic meeting with like the prince of another nation. Like, could you imagine like you're just like, okay, you go take this, and you're just like.
Especially of the nation that like loves money. They love money and gold and stuff. And he's probably, I guess we don't ever get the prince's like point of view, but like I wonder what he thought walking in and seeing like this dude straight up head to toe covered in gold. They know that the Eador don't, I guess they probably know about their burial rituals, but do they know? Can they put 2 and 2 together there and be like, all right, wait a minute. Don't you usually do that to your dead? So what's going on? Yeah.
Well, and the Aquitar did tell the first eunuch that he had died and come back to life. And actually, she told all of them.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
But then they went into more specific detail, and the prince was like, whatever, this is a hoax, right? I mean, probably from his point of view, he probably sees it as like, a facade, like well, not facade. What's the right word for it? But just like it's false, right? Like it's just something that he's done in order to
like
kind of carry on this illusion.
Kind of thing,
yeah, exactly. So
it's interesting.
But yeah,
But we'll get to we'll get to that. Do you have any thoughts of where you want to? I mean, we should start with the intro to this part because it was awesome.
Yeah.
Which was the ships. Like, I wasn't expecting to get the payoff of the ships with the Shadow Wraiths this early, but we immediately get them. They basically are being escorted by this like shadow creature thing, which I think we learn. I believe are we supposed to understand that this is the god that has been released from like the dolmen?
Yeah,
That is
that
being
was something I was
controlled by
curious
the
about too.
Edor. Because the Edor like have his name. They basically destroy his name, this god's name, and like have control of him. And it seems like that might be the one. It's like a big shadowy creature from the depths.
I can see that.
Yeah, but basically it's just like brings the ships, smashes them against the wall of somewhere near. It's near enough to Lethar. I can't remember. I wrote it down. I think it's it is. It's Trait.
Yep.
Which is also the place where Rulad wants when we get there. That's the land he wants and
the prince
demands of. No,
that's the prince.
No, Rulad does. I'm pretty sure.
Because they ask him. They say that They say that we'll forgive the debt, and in exchange, what we want is this fishing village. And you guys can still come and fish there, but we'll take 60% of your take.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
there's like,
but Roulette says no.
Yeah, Roulette says no.
Yeah.
And then they count. Well, and specifically Hanan Maksag, the Warlock King, says no because he's speaking on behalf of Roulette during that conversation. But then they flip the tables, basically. Yeah, but the intention is supposed to be an impossible request. Like, it's supposed to be a nonsensical, impossible request.
Yeah,
because it's supposed to instigate war, right? That's what the prince wants.
Yep. But yeah, I just thought that was cool. We don't really know, especially because we now know that these wraiths are not Edor.
Right.
So like, why? What are they? Yeah. What are they gonna do? They're very far now from the Hieroth village. So yeah, I don't know. They kind of just crash there, and we don't get much more. But I'm assuming they're going to go into the city and wreak havoc.
Could be.
So I'm excited to see that. That was cool.
Right. I mean, it brings up an interesting question, I think, now, right, that we are like learning so much more, because there's sort of the super like understanding that like, oh, these are like our ancestors, but we know that's not true. In fact, all of the shadow wraiths of all kinds, all of the ghosts, all the races, and all the shadow figures of all kinds, under the allure of the Tista Edor, are all conquered individuals. And which makes you wonder, like, what were the Edor like at a time when they could inflict this, right? And now here we are.
Well, probably a lot like how they're going to be with Rulad, be my guess.
Yeah, exactly, right? And because the thing was that, like, we now know with the Warlock King, who had first commissioned them to take the boats over, that that was part of his game of how he was going to handle these diplomatic negotiations, much the same way he's kind of handling it right now. But we know that his end goal was to essentially make it so that way, the Lethari could never invade and conquer their people, not so much to reverse that and conquer them. Which, there was kind of a red herring from the first part where it's like, well, maybe that's what he wants to do.
Yeah,
it seems like that's not the case.
Yeah, I think at this point, confirmed he wants peace. And he would, and we learned he had made a deal with a crippled god and controlled this shadowy beast or whatever. And the goal was to get the sword and use the sword to conquer. But Hanan Maksag had another idea and said, I'm going to use it to just protect my people instead.
Yep.
I don't really know what the heck these wraiths are doing because it doesn't really fit into any of that.
No, but now they're under, presumably they're under control of Rulad because he commands the king.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Yeah. So now it could be like Return of the King, just here we go. Shadow army, go into town.
Yeah.
Do your thing. True. Who knows, right? But it's like I said, there's just a lot on the table. Throw all of the things that could go wrong into the mix and just see what chaos ensues. He spent Stephen Erickson spent a long time in this chapter talking about how people crave disorder. So he has created a lot of disorder.
Yeah, it's gonna be chaos.
Yeah.
But notably, they did say that the Sita sees this. Seta Kwan. He sees this, and I'm assuming this is kind of why he sends Brees, Briss, Bryce, not Briss,
Yep.
on his little journey that he ends up taking.
And Seda is the mage, right?
He's the mage. Yeah.
Yep.
So he spies it and kind
was.
of sends Bryce into the hold of the dolmen, using whatever the tiles, the magic, I guess.
Yep.
But so right from there, that's really the intro to the whole part. It feels like, because we never go back. We never go back to that. So it's just like a little taste right at the beginning, and it sits the whole time. And then we kind of just jump to the Eternal Domicile with Bryce and the flooding, and we've kind of find out that Bug's construction. We get the note of that has kind of taken over some of the construction on some of these wings, and Bryce is like, wait, who's construction? They're like, Bugs. He's like, Bugs. Really funny scene with the rat catcher. There's like a float of, I was like, oh shit, what is this? Like basically like he describes it as like a float of all these rat bodies piled together, moving across the water. I kind of picture like the head of an alligator or something. And then it's just like the rat catcher, like, it's just me catching rats. Like, that's what I do.
It was the second best description of the city in the book.
Which was?
The first best was when it was raining and Tehol was out on his walk by himself after he split off from Bug. And he goes, the base of the description goes, and people decided to use the rain-washed streets as an opportunity to throw their chamber pots out the window rather than to go like down. And then it like describes it in
like
detail.
The poop ships and stuff.
Yeah. And then Intel just goes, it's a fine day in the city.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, and he's like, I can't remember. There's something with like, there's so much Bug and Tehol like back and forth, which is great. But he's like, he had tried to make him a rain jacket or an umbrella or something like that.
It was a straw. It was a rain straw
rain hat.
Or rain hat. Yeah.
And then like he like kind of kicked it into the fire. Yeah. And then they got into the rain. He's like, I wish I had something to protect me from this rain. And Bug's like, I made you the hat. Like, yeah, it's pretty funny. I'm picturing, I guess Bug is older than Tehol. I always picture him younger, but he's like an older servant.
No, I think he is older. I think you want to think about him like your quirky,
like Jeeves.
Like quirky Jeeves, basically, right? Or like quirky Alfred to Tehol's Batman kind of thing. Yeah,
I like their relationship a lot. It's fun.
Yeah. I do also love like what he's like wearing his belt, he's just like, why do you have that belt? He's like, well, they all wear it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but you got no tools in it. He's like, well, of course I got no tools. I run the company. I don't actually do the work. He's like, then why are you wearing the belt? He's like, well, I gotta make up appearances, keep up appearances. It's just they constantly poking and prodding each other.
Yeah, I would say there's more humor in this part than probably like the rest of Malazan so far. There's a lot. Basically, if they are on the page together, there's humor, which I think mostly worked for me. I think that one scene, I was like, I was a little ready by the end, but I am enjoying their banter a lot.
Yeah, I will say, I think, I mean, we can talk about more when we get to their particular piece, but I will say that I think it works for me now. Maybe I'm just reading more into it, but I think part of the reason why it works for me is because they're so in sync with the operation. It very much feels like they are very much co-conspirators.
Yeah.
Because basically Bug knows almost everything about the operation and even has his own piece of the operation that he commands. And he also seems to completely trust Tehol, or at least as regards the operation goes. So like if there's things he doesn't know, he's like, yeah, it's fine. Tehol got it. That's just like how he operates. It's going to be okay. Because we see some of that get revealed in like details that he will let slip, where it's just like, oh wait, you guys haven't literally, you haven't really talked about that. But like then he knows these details. Like, oh, like you guys are very much in step. Whereas I think if it was more so like Bug is really like just a servant, just doing everything Tehol says, I think it would come off differently. But like they both give as much as they take.
100%.
Yeah,
it's fun little banter.
Yeah.
But yeah, where do you want to go? Do we want to follow a character? We want to. That was kind of just our little setup. But
one thing I wanted to ask, because I was a little bit maybe confused is not quite the right word, but whenever we actually see like the shadowy figures go, and like it's Bryce who confronts them, who's also the king's champion, right?
Wait,
And he can,
who confronts them where and when?
well, so like the shadowy figures, like isn't it Bryce who's like acting on behalf of the Seta to like investigate?
You talking about
I
when
can't
he
remember.
goes into the dolmen?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's
and that's Bryce, and he's the king's champion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I remember there was this scene, and I was getting a little bit distracted this time because of kiddos, but I'm pretty sure there was a scene where it was Bryce that was interacting, and they were talking about his skill with a sword.
Yes.
And the guy, and it's basically like he looks at the sword and he's like, "How is your sword this light?" He's like, "Well, it's a secret of its craftsmanship." And I was like, "I'm pretty sure that's Bryce." And then he makes this comment about, because he asked him like, "How are you good with a sword?" And he's like, "I'm passable," which I kind of took as like, I'm pretty sure this is Bryce,
Yeah.
who is like one of the best
I
warriors.
think
So
he's
I'm pretty
just
sure this is
humble.
a big modest. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. But I was like, is this somebody else like in the world? Like,
No,
I just
yeah, it
confused
was
the
him.
characters. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can talk about that scene because it's just
Yeah.
an awesome scene
Mhm.
of he basically meets with the Sita, and basically they are talking about how the Edor is controlling this shadow thing, and they're gonna go and
Mhm.
try and inform Male, who's the god of water, essentially,
Yep.
of this. And so they go. He basically pushes them into this hold, the hold of the
Yeah.
dolmens, and he's like underwater in a trench, which is
Yeah.
sick. Yeah. Go.
Mhm. And like he like specifically wanted Bryce to go confront Male because they thought Male, they could actually reach Male. They thought Male was under the control of the Edor or under the direction of the Edor, or they're working in unison, kind of thing. And then notably, Male's not there, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he finds this like armored badass knight dude. I guess
Mhm.
before he does that, he finds these 6 dolmen, which are like basically just like pillars. And
Mhm.
in those are like carved like figures that look like some kind of figure. He doesn't know they're gods yet. With like carvings over them, like kind of runes. So he thinks they're trapped there. He thinks they've been trapped there. And one, notably, is missing. And then this knight dude, like protector of them, comes out and basically challenges Bryce to a fight.
Yep.
And he also kind of like monologues a little bit about like who they are, and like, no, these aren't escaped. Like, these are gods that have been protected by Male. They've been put here and protected so their names aren't forgotten, that kind of thing. And also, you see this one over here. Yeah, that's because the Edor came, destroyed this thing's name, so it can't be protected anymore, and then now have it under his control. So specifically, not Male, just some god. They call them like forgotten gods or whatnot. And then they duel. Really cool duel. It's like underwater. It's not affecting Bryce though at all, as far as like being underwater. Obviously, he can breathe. His movements aren't any different. He's just exactly as he is. And then we find out that like Protector is dying. And he's bleeding out essentially, and and Bryce offers up his blood and his sword. Because now he knows the truth of these gods. He wants this Protector to remain there and actually protect them, especially because he doesn't want the Edor to have them. And so, he offers his blood and his sword. I think that's probably the moment when he gives the sword, and the dude's like, "Wow, this sword's great."
Yeah. Well, because he's like, even tells Bryce, he's like, you don't know what you're offering. Like, you're offering a lot more than you think you are, which kind of like potentially puts Bryce on the hook to become something in the future, right? That there might be a point in time where he becomes a protector, or he's responsible for like keeping the names of the old gods or things like that, right?
Yeah, so that's what he offers in return is the names, not just the names, with the names somewhere. He offers them like thousands and thousands and thousands of years of history, basically, just a flood all at once into his brain. And within that history are the names of these gods, but he doesn't. He has to find them at some point. He's not like, oh, Bob Dylan, Bob Dylan,
Bob Dylan. Whoa.
Bob Dylan. Yeah,
he's one of them.
Yeah, he's the missing one actually. Yeah, so he just has all this history, which I'm really excited to see Bryce's arc going forward, because
Yep.
we don't really touch on that too much after this. He leaves. He tells the Sita basically exactly what he was told,
Yep.
that the Eudor have control over one of these gods that doesn't have his
Yep.
name. He's got the name somewhere. If he can find it, then they can basically take back over and free this
Yep.
god from the Eudor. But he's gonna have to go through all that history and figure that out somehow, which we don't know how. But really cool scene. I mean, just like underwater battle with a knight, and of course it ends in like the way you don't expect, of like grace and like him offering up of like, oh, this is good. It's not just a duel to the death. Like it sets up like you think it's gonna be. Yeah, I really enjoyed that part. I thought it was super cool.
Well, and notably, we do get some more of a monologue on Bryce specifically, and like we get his POV after that encounter. And I think that there's something really important about that, because also, if I'm not mistaken, Bryce is the youngest son
Yes.
of the Bedics. And so we have this really interesting contrast between Bryce and Rulad, where both of them are the youngest sons of these two noble houses, and they're very much like foils of each other, right? Where Bryce is very much like the chivalrous, more kind, but also quite competent, like blooded character, where Rulad is very much more so the selfish and emotionally volatile. But I would also say that there's like a certain hardship to the way that Rulad sees the world that Bryce has a bit of naivety to, where, he kind of sees the world as like, do I gravitate towards dueling because dueling simplifies things, right? Like it's just one against the other, both have accepted a certain fate. There's not a whole lot of like maybe like nuance in that particular world. It's like everyone who has stepped into the arena, so to speak, has done so for the same singular purpose. And so I think that there's a degree to which like the messiness of real life is something that Bryce really tries to avoid. And I do wonder if that's going to be a way in which he's, as a character, is like challenged moving forward, if he's going to have to face the messiness. And we kind of see that with like he wants to stay neutral, right? He doesn't even want to get involved in like the politics.
Yeah, he's talking with T-Hole.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like,
so,
which is a great scene just itself,
Yeah.
because he basically goes to T-Hole and is like, I don't want to be, on this side or this side. And T-Hole's like, dude, you're the king's, what's it called? The
King's champion.
The king's champion. Like, you're on a side, first of all, and then I do like his whole thing. Like, you just need to treat conversations like a duel.
Yep.
You parry, you riposte, things like that. It's like, oh, this may have just unlocked things for Bryce, like, because he's clearly, I think, we've seen like he is competent, like you said, he's a smart guy, but he simplifies things for himself. But I think that has just unlocked a part for him that is going to make things really, really interesting. And another like parallel that, as you're saying, how he kind of parallels Rulad, it is really cool that he gives up a sword where Rulad acquires a sword.
It takes a sword,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I do think that there is like, I mean, I'm saying that he's simplifying things, but I do feel like that simplification can in a way carry through, like what you're saying. Like maybe again, this would be an oversimplification, which I do think it is to an extent, but you can very much look at all of the parties that are politically vying, right, for the outcome of the situation as people who are just willing participants in this court intrigue. It's not like any of them just got sucked into it, right? I mean, they all have taken political appointments or have participated in this to further it in one way, shape, or form. So just like a duel, they all knew what arena they're stepping into and willingly did so. So anything that sort of happens as a consequence, I mean, it's just that's the game they're playing. It's not as fun of a game. It's a lot more of a messy game, and other people definitely get hurt. It's certainly not a chivalrous game like dueling is, but it is still for them a game nonetheless.
Yeah, I was looking over just kind of my notes, and I forgot that the protector of the gods, he was specifically, at least that's what I wrote, powered by the blood of the gods, and that's what's diminishing and running out. So the fact that Brees, that his blood is enough to carry this guy forward, it's like, what does that, is there significance to that? Like, does that mean that his blood is special? It seems like it.
It is, because he's a virgin.
Oh, is that why? Are you joking? I was like, I missed that.
I'm pretty sure.
I missed that
but
part.
it keeps coming up.
That's true. I mean, that's true.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that too. I think virginity is an important theme in this particular book.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not mentioned it for Troll yet, because we know that he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not been brought up yet, really.
Yeah, I say it's an important theme, somewhat in jest, but like there was a period where they talked about like the sorcery. I can't remember if it was specifically of the Lether, one of the Lether slaves, or if it was of one of the members of the party. I can't remember specifically who they were talking about when they were saying like even worse if like she's a virgin because it'll be so much more powerful. So like I said, I wish I meant to go back to that scene. I just don't have time. But I will say that when they talked about that, one of the things I realized that's kind of neat is Rulad grabbed the sword as a virgin. Not necessarily, we don't know if he's a virgin in that same sense, but he was unbloodied in battle, which there is like, in our common culture and certainly in their culture, we do sometimes talk about people as being like a virgin in a particular activity, like aversion to war. And for his people, that's like one of the most important elements of manhood, where typically for men, that concept of virginity, like historically speaking, was kind of a way to delineate between like a boy and a man, was whether or not they were still a virgin. And in their culture, whether or not you were bloodied or unbloodied is basically the same parallel. And so the fact that like Rulad grabbed the sword as a virgin, unbloodied, to then use it to get his first kill, I think there's a lot of significance in terms of why he was chosen, right? And I don't think it's just because the crippled god was really upset with the Warlock King. I think that's part of it, but I think that Rulad was like in some ways the crippled god's like perfect choice.
Yeah, even better. I'm sure when he showed up, crippled god was like, "Okay, sick, like awesome. This is perfect. Fell right into my lap." But let's. I think we should continue on with maybe T-Hole and the Lethar side of things before we get into the Sengars, and then get kind of maybe we wrap. So maybe we do Lethar with T-Hole and Bug and their whole operation. Then we do the Sengar brothers, and then we can kind of wrap it up in High Roth as things come together there.
Yeah,
go
notably,
for it.
Things are moving forward with T-Hole's operation, and so again, he's been hired by these three women, whose names I'm sure Shan, Rasar, and Hedgen. We don't really see much of them in this particular section because they're just off banging Ubala Pong, Ublala. They can't stop. They can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, exactly. The one endowed. So we don't really get to see much of them, but T-Hole is keeping up with his operation. And so notably the big focus of this chapter is on his promises to Shirk and the start of kind of a new tangential investigation, which presumably we're going to get into more in the book 3, which is related to Kettle and the House of Azoth, and also a potentially new revelation that there might be somebody in town who is like, well, I think we know who this is, but like someone's disposing of all the criminals. I think we know who that is. Yep, who's dumping their bodies in the river. And I think like I said, I think we know who that is. But yeah, so it begins with essentially T-Hole kind of organizing. I say begins, but one of the first significant events is that T-Hole is attempting to make do on his promises to Shirk to help reinvigorate her. And he has, under the cover of night, hired someone who is extremely proficient in dealing with the dead and has had experiences dealing specifically with the undead, and is going to help actually treat Shirk. I mean, you can't restore nerves or things like that mostly, but can do a lot to basically like do manicures, pedicures, clean them out. Like she gets like the river water out of her lungs. She like gets rid of all of like the infestations and like all of like the plant life that's like growing in her. So there's just like all of this like really disgusting stuff, right? And she's able to address all of that, which are all things that Shirk had really looked for. But then she replaces many of those things with like remedies that she's come up with, different spices and fragrances, and does things to kind of liven up her appearance to make her appear more alive. And then does a few other things, which I don't know if we can mention on YouTube because it might get us. Not that we're monetized, but
say it. I don't care.
yeah.
We might lose
But
our negative,
yeah.
our negative money.
Yeah. So if you guys didn't know, there is in real life there is a parasite that lives in waters and dense jungles that I like to call the pee-pee fish. And if you go pee-pee in these waters, then the pee-pee fish will find its way into your pee-pee. And I guess Steven Erickson was like, you know what? That sounds like a great idea for a book. And it was like, what if instead of a pee-pee fish, there's just a vagina fish? You know, we'll just have a fish that is just a vagina. That's what it is. It's just a massive tentacle-looking vagina fish. And they're like, how does this work? And they're like, well, you put it up there. It spreads its tendrils all through your body. And then you just have a feel-good machine. Just, you know, living and breathing down there.
Yep.
And you can't ever get rid of it because now it's one with you.
Yeah, and also it's always hungry. Always. It is never
satiated. I'm very glad this did not go the horror route where it was just like, well, how do you feed it? Well, you know what you gotta do.
Yeah. There's that movie Teeth. You ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I have. I was like, surely we're not going that direction. Like, nope, it's definitely hungry. It's definitely hungry for sex, but it doesn't need to like be chopping dicks off, thankfully.
Yeah.
In a million years, if you were asking me for predictions, this is
wouldn't be
not where I would be going.
Yeah, in the same.
I also love how they were like, well, we'll also need to take this other fish, which is the only fish that can live in the waters with this thing because it's developed a poison that counteracts like the growth, and we can basically just use that and put that in your brain. But I love the fact there's a little detail of like, because it's like, what happens if like the tentacles like hit your brain? It's like, well, you're basically going to be drooling because it's going to be like somebody hit your pleasure center and they just never let go of the button, right? You would just be like flooded with so much and like endorphins, dopamine, and all that you like literally could not operate ever. You're just like dead, essentially.
If we ever interview Steven Erickson, I'm gonna say, I only have one question for you. Paint me the scene. Where were you when this idea popped into your head? Like, where? Paint the scene for me.
I'm gonna be like, what happened to you growing up? Like,
like, were you in like a cabin alone on a writing retreat, and like you're just like, I'm just gonna throw things against the wall and see what sticks? Or we at like a children's birthday party, because these are very different scenes, and I want to know. I want to get into the mind of Steven Erickson, and that would be my only question. Other than that, I don't.
No, only question. Yeah,
one question. We'll have him on for one, and then we'll say thank you very much, and we'll sign off.
Okay, there you go.
You hold me to it.
Good little book signing. That's all you got to do.
Exactly. But this, I would say, this plot line for me, while I enjoyed it, is definitely the weakest for me of this part. Like, it's interesting. I think it's about to get a lot more interesting. This, as far as with like where we get to at the end of this, but a lot of it was just like her being invigorated, and then her going off and going to the brothel, doing her thing, and Teal kind of being like, no, come, like the whole deal was I would do this, but you gotta help me. And then we finally get to where the plan kind of comes to fruition. They've been planning to rob Garen Ebricht. Specifically, I had a question for you. Specifically on the night of, so he's going to be at a party hosted by the Queen's consort, who is Turadal Brizad, who he pops up in this book particularly a lot, but never with like enough significance for me to have a grasp on who he is really. Like, he talks to Bryce at one point. He's just brought up a lot. He's just like the Queen's.
Wait, the Queen's consort?
Yeah, so Garen
or Garen.
No, the Queen's consort.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Garen, I have a pretty good idea of like who he is, what he's doing, all that. But the consort's just like, every time we're in Lethar, someone's talking about him,
Yep.
But that's it. Not in any kind of significant way. So in this way, that's where Garen's going to be. The plan is Garen's going to be at this party thrown by the consort, specifically on the night of the Errant Festival. And the Errant is another thing that's brought up that I'm like, man, this sounds really, really familiar, but I have no idea. Is this something we know? Is this a god?
Well, the Errant's like a god, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because they'll say things like Errant's dream is like a curse.
Yeah, exactly. But do we know anything about this god yet?
Not really. It's just like an ancestral god.
I couldn't remember if this was like, something Guardians of the Moon. It's like we know the Errant or something.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But no, the Queen's Consort does come up, and I think it's just we're keeping a wild card on the table, because essentially what keeps coming up is that it's not really clear what the motivations of the Queen's Consort is, because the king's first concubine is very clearly opposed to the queen, right? I believe, she's, because the king and the queen kind of different. Well, we don't really know from the king. We just know from people who will supposedly side with the king what his preferences would be, but he seems pretty out of it. But the first concubine is like very clearly on the side of like, no, we don't want war, whereas the queen is trying to instigate war. And supposedly the queen's first consort is like on the same page as her, but maybe not.
Yeah.
And so, I think he's really just kind of being kept on the table as a wild card. And then I am hoping that we capitalize on that in one way, shape, or form in book 3. Otherwise, it will feel kind of weird why he keeps coming up.
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will. He's also the one that's like watching Bryce's like military exercises, and then tells him to go see the Sita because the Sita and the Chancellor have a feud going on. He's just like this like weird dude going around, and I think Bryce is like internally like commenting on this dude. He's basically like super handsome.
Yep.
And that's it. Like,
not
strong. He's got exactly. He's got nothing else going for him other than just like a handsome guy. But yeah. Anyways, all that to say that the plan that they are putting together was to rob Garen on the night of this Errant's Festival, and that's kind of like Shirk's through line here. Is they fix her up, then they go rescue her, but pull her out of the brothel.
Yep.
And be like, hey, bro, you got to do your job, because that was the deal. Yep. Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense, because like the thing, basically it gives her a physical need, right? Like, because she can feel sensations from it. She kind of like imagine she basically has had no sensations now for a very, very, very long time. And then now she has this like hunger essentially that she's like never felt. And so she's just going to the brothel and just like trying to get rid of that hunger. I will say, so then we do kind of see her, she gets brought back. We do see that T-Hole kind of puts Ublala and her together, and then they have kind of a funny little thing that happens, and then they end up going to Garen's estate, and they break in. I did think it was kind of cool how it described her ascent, where she's like climbing, and she's like, embracing the fact that she's dead. So she's like, the way that she's operating, right? It talked about how like her hands were getting all cut up, and like fragments of the shale from the rock face were like going into her hands, but then she's just using that to get a better grip to climb up, because she knows she'll just be able to like sew it back later, right? And so I was like, oh, that's really cool, right? Like we're using those elements of her condition, and she's using them to become a better thief, because she is really, really, really good at being a thief. So she would think of these things, and they would come to her naturally. I thought that was kind of neat.
Oh yeah, I thought it was super cool. Did like this is probably gonna anger people, and honestly, it angers myself. But did like the Ublala and Shirk kind of remind you this like mission? Did it just off the top of your head? Did it remind you of anything? Like give you any type of vibe? Something? It's nothing specific to with the. I'll just say what it is. It just gave me the vibes of like Black Widow and Hulk, like Shirk being Black Widow and Ublala just being like this big dude busting through the gates as she's kind of off directing him through and everything, and he's just like the wrecking ball.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it now that you say it.
Yeah. Also on camera, I don't like the MCU. I swear. This is worse than talking about vagina fish.
Cut the mic.
Yeah.
Cut the mic.
No, but it did kind of give me that vibe of like I like them teaming up. They're very different in the way they go about things. She's using this big wrecking ball to help her, as the distraction essentially to sneak in even better. And he's just there's no way he's sneaking in. So he does what he does best, which is just like knock down a gate on top of people and like squash them and stuff, which was great. And then they kind of just immediately get split up. They bust in and they split up.
Well, because the plan is that he's supposed to be a diversion, so that way she can get in and then lay low, right? And then she like specifically wants there to be some time that subsides.
Yep.
And so then she can move about the premise, like while the guards are not on high alert anymore from the diversion. So it kind of gets her in and lets things calm down, so she can do her work. And then she does meet, and she is able to find his room, and she meets his dead brother, which is a name that I'm pretty sure T-Hole had mentioned in the first book, or somebody had mentioned in the first book. So we've heard this character's name before. But I think I can't remember if it was specifically their name or they just said there was a servant who had gone missing, but this is that person. Because it happened several years ago, and actually it's his brother. We don't know if it's a full-blooded brother or if it was like a bastard who's a brother or something like that. But Garen, like, he specifically runs the estate, and he had actually killed his brother and then cursed him to become undead, by calling in a favor. And this guy now kind of holds it against Garen. And so with the prospect of being able to sort of be able to get out and possibly like have a life other than this, he teams up with Shirk, and mostly he just wants fangs. He just wants some good dental work,
Yep.
But the interesting twist here is the fact that they discovered a chest of diamonds hidden behind one of the picture frames, which Garen's brother knew about the safe that was there, but he expected it to be full of basically IOUs, because his brother doesn't keep any money around the estate typically. But instead he finds there being diamonds, which means that there's something about to go on, like something about to happen soon. He's either just collected payment for something, or he is about to send payment for something. We don't know what that is, but now they have those diamonds. So that's an interesting little twist that we're gonna get to see come to something to later. So I'm interested to see. I think they're probably for payment on something, because that was the indication, but also that's more interesting, right?
Yeah, it could simply be like payment for, because they wanted him, the queen, or I can't remember. Somebody wanted him to kill somebody at the Great Meeting.
Yeah, they wanted to kill the bodyguard,
the
first concubine, and the commander want him to kill the first bodyguard. I guess it is though. First bodyguard to the prince, because then he won't be able to intimidate Baruch the Pale anymore. And so then maybe Baruch.
Oh, no, wait, it's the opposite though, right? Because I think,
no,
yeah, because they don't want him to. Because we're under the impression that Baruch was instigate. I mean, he started the thing, because I thought it was at the end of the last part. Bryce. Yeah. They were telling Bryce, we gotta get Garen to kill the bodyguard, because then So it's not. Oh, sorry, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Because the bodyguard is the
queen.
No, the bodyguard's the one who's keeping Baruch the Pale in line.
Yes, yeah.
To work for the queen.
It's the king's side that wants.
Yep. Yes, the king's side wants Garen to kill that bodyguard, so that way
Modok
Baruch will no longer.
Like that.
Yes, so he'll no longer be working with them, or at least they could try to speak to his conscience. And we do get a little bit of his conscience in this one, which was kind of cool. I actually did really like that scene with him and the Aquitaine. But yeah, so that's kind of the situation. But I think it's less interesting if the diamonds are payment for that service, because then he loses them. He's out those diamonds, but it doesn't mean anything more, right? Whereas if he needed those for something that he can no longer use them for, that's pretty interesting, or it could be at least, right? I mean, but yeah, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, me too. And so yeah, that's. There's also like I feel like this part solidified that like I don't really like Shirk that much, as far as like I don't think Shirk is like I feel like before I was like, I get why you're grumpy, but I kind of root for you. But now she's like going the way, especially with like she basically like rapes some guy in the castle, but it kind of paints it as like oh, he liked it kind of thing. When she like busts in, she's trying to pass the time and like I don't know. I just don't like I
I
it's
don't
hard
think
for
we're
me to like
supposed to
root for.
interpret that as being a good thing. You know, I think it's like
Well,
the
afterwards, it's
hunger.
like he's sleeping so well when she leaves his bed, and
Yeah,
like,
but she's even like critical of him. She's like, yeah, I hope Ublala is better than he was,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
he passed out,
I
right?
mean, good for him. Like, I think that's how
Yeah,
it kind of felt like to me. Of it
yeah,
was almost paying like this lucky guy. She just came up to him, was just like, "I want to have sex with you," and now
hmm
he's sleeping so good because he's had
yep,
sex, and yeah, I don't know. So I'm feeling weird about Shirk a little bit.
yep,
I did like it up to that point with like it made sense putting Shirk and Ublala together, and because he's like he's sick of being used. He doesn't want to be used. He
yep.
wants love. He wants commitment, which Shand and Hejun and stuff can't provide. They just want to sleep with him, and so I'm like, oh, it makes total. I didn't even think about it until Teal was like, I got the perfect guy for you to
Yeah.
Shirk, and then she immediately like writes him off like immediately
Yeah.
the first time they meet. She's just like, nah, maybe later, which I
Mhm.
thought I just thought it was interesting. That didn't bother me, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'll be curious to see how I feel about Shirk moving forward. At the end of the day, she's a thief. I never painted
Yeah.
her as a good person.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to really interpret her like yeah as a good person. I think there's like an interesting story there, and there's some like good elements to her, like her relationship with Kettle is interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I mean, she is kind of a vehicle for something else, like in this whole story.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm hoping. I definitely agree. I think this is the weakest story thread in the entire book. I do hope that it improves. I do appreciate the humor, and it hasn't any time where I think maybe it's too much, it then moves on to something else. So it hasn't really like got to a breaking point for me yet.
yeah. I
But
would
yeah,
say
I definitely
I'm
would like
like
to see
right.
improve.
I do. I think it's towing the line for me.
Yeah.
Um, like yeah, when it does end, I'm like, all right, like I'm ready to see another scene. Like I do think the brothel was funny with all the
Hmm.
boobs and stuff. Like it was funny. But it literally got to a point where they were quipping back and forth. It was just like quip, 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 quip,
Yeah.
quip, 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 and I was like, all right, like,
Hmm.
all right, we get it.
For all
It's a
of
little
our for
funny.
all of our listeners out there, one of the main reasons why Matt does not like the MCU is Matt is not a big Quip fan.
I'm not a big quip fan if it
Hmm.
relies if every character is like that. Which
Yeah.
to be fair, I do think it's I do think Bug and Teal feel unique, but they feel like you said they feel very similar. They just know each other's humor so well
Yeah.
that they can just riff like that, and it does feel natural. The MCU, it's like imagine Malazan all like 2,000 named characters were all Bug and Teal, and every sentence of every book was just them quipping. That's the MCU. That's my problem with the MCU. It's like every character's like that. But yeah, I'm well, the last thing we gotta talk about, which I think is the thing holding this storyline together for me, is the Azath house and Kettle.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
things are what. Sorry, there's one other thing we gotta talk about too, which was there was a really it feels like a really important scene of Bug going and meeting this family, and their grandmother has just been killed by Garen, and
Mhm.
he gives them his blessing, which I think we later find out for certain cultures, we don't really know because Mayan gives her blessing to the Narek, and that's a huge deal, like a huge.
Yep.
They're not eating, they
Mm.
can't function, and they get the
Yeah, and
blessing.
that's the one where it was like even more so if she's a virgin, right? I think that's like
Mm,
that's where the whole virgin question came up was about that blessing.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like blessings could be more than just like a blessing. Like there's something going on. So it's like
Yep.
when Bug he gives his blessing, and he's like particularly tired out from it when he arrives back home. I'm like,
Mm.
does he have something going on that we don't know about?
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really interested about that. He also meets. Let's see if I can find his name. I'm trying to even remember where that is in my notes. What chapter? I thought it was. I might see it as we're going through, but basically like one of the sons or the cousin comes in and he's like, "What happened?" And they tell him he's like this big old freaking beefer, and they name drop him. Seems like he's gonna be important, but it's something also with a U. I'll see it as I'm looking through my notes. I'm just kind of going off the top here. Let's see if I can find it.
Well, I do think at least like you can call this a prediction. But my prediction is that this whole storyline with T. Holenbach and Shirk trying to raid Garrick's estate, and I think ultimately all of this is really just going to be cover for the fact that the real story is going to be around the Azath house. Like that's ultimately going to become the story of T. Holenbach. They're going to discover that there's a lot more going on here than they first realized. That there's something really important with the House of the Azath. There's also this whole question over Garen, who I think is the one who's putting all the criminals in the river. And I think that that's really ultimately going to become his quest. Like he sought out to complete this mission for Shand and them, doing the thing that he does really well, which he does it really well without anybody knowing. He has earned a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
Like he just knows the scene, but ultimately he's actually going to get put into a quest that he did not expect. That's a little bit outside of his wheelhouse, and it is going to do for him the thing that is the thing he does not want, which is that he is going to feel compelled to do the right thing. Right? He wants to play the game that he knows, and now he's going to be kind of burdened with playing a different kind of game. Right?
Yeah. I did find it.
So I think that's the story.
I also think, for time predictions, there's zero chance. Because you know me, I've been spot on with my big predictions. Yeah. This one's not that big of a prediction, but no way. I think my prediction would be a Bug doesn't make it, but one of them's not making it. No shot. They both are making it through whatever happens. But I did find the name. His name is Un, U-N-N, Un. And specifically, the people are Narek as well. These are like Narek people that he blesses. So it could just be something culturally for them. And I did, in our like the little separate politics section, I did write some stuff about the Narek because they talk about. So they, which may or may not be important, but it's just a couple sentences. So I'll go ahead and read them. So first thing is that they have a creation myth that they were all born of a single mother who goes by three different names: Ares, Naeris, and Arisol. And then,
which are specifically three roles, actually, because that's just their term for grandmother, mother, and daughter.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So she goes by all three, but she's their single mother. She's the mother that birthed them all. Okay. And then she
plays this like role.
I see. And then the other thing is that they populated the South, and they were the ones that witnessed the first coming of the Lethrai colonists by ship, which is very much feels like kind of like a Native American, the European kind of colonists coming over and colonizing them essentially. But I did want to note those. And then just speaking on that, because I think earlier we talked about Bryce and Sita. They were talking about Mail or Mile and stuff. They also talked about the First Empire and the history of that, which we now know is they originated from where the Seven Cities are now, which is interesting. They left it and created Lether. And after they had left, the First Empire was destroyed. It became Seven Cities. And that's, I think, where they are now is where the holds were first discovered by them.
One thing I do keep wondering about is, because we learned about, although I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden, but the guy who killed Whiskey Jack, right?
He's
like was Kellenved? Was he wasn't it Kellenved?
No, I don't think it was Kellenved.
What's his name? Was Kellenved somebody different?
Yeah, Kellenved's someone different, I think.
I think is his name.
It's more of a sinister name than that, I thought. Maybe not, though.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, even his name sounds bad.
It does. It sounds terrible. It's like a lava, not Krupp, no. Oh, I can't remember. Corbel? No, it's not Karuli, not Corbel. No.
Are you looking through I bet we could look through my old notes.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
In Memories of Ice. He was in I feel like he was maybe in part 1. People are screaming. Kaller.
Kalar, yeah.
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 Kalar the
Sorry,
Killer.
yeah. I don't remember who Kellanved was. I'll remember who Kellanved was later, but I at least remember the name.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kalar.
I thought Kellanved was...
But Kalar was he was an emperor way back when. Right? And he was cursed.
Yep.
So that's why he's still alive. Like, was he the emperor of the first empire, or like, what is the relation of his empire?
Yeah, he might
to everything
be.
else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he very well could be. Now I gotta know. I thought Kellanved was one of the 3 guys, like the Destriant and the. But maybe not. No, that's Shadow Throne. Is what?
Kellanved Shadow Throne.
Oh yeah, duh.
We just
it's Carnitas. was the gray sword. All right. Anyways, well, yeah, that is really interesting.
Kellanved is an emperor. Okay, so at least I got it was in the right domain. It's just like I had to work backwards.
I can't believe we've not been able to master these names yet. That's embarrassing. Yeah. So I'm really interested as well. Just it is cool getting to see, especially like. It feels like it has to have been a nod to like the Native Americans and the Europeans coming over. That's what it feels like to me, at least, when they were telling that they're colonists on ships invading and colonizing. I just feel like in our history, that's the one. That's the one. So it did feel like that to me, which I found interesting. But I'm curious moving forward about the blessings, because it does seem like. Maybe Bug, because there wasn't what was a lot of like healers or whatever in this world when they like not the Destriant but the other guy who was like the healer. It like takes the energy out of him. Some of the bridge burners have it too. Like it takes the energy out.
Yeah,
of
I mean that's ultimately how he died. Like their high priest in this Grey Swords, he died keeping Igovi and the other recruits alive.
Yeah. So I wonder if Bug
he died from exhaustion, basically.
Something like that, to where he's like tapped into one of these warrens or something, or he's just up all night and he's tired. I don't know. But it does. It's like there's 2 times that blessings are brought up, and both times they're with Nerix. And both times they are very significant. It seems like. So I'm curious about that.
Well, and Rulad also brought up a blessing, but he brought up in more of the traditional manner, where he was offering he was offering a blessing to Fear and to the Warlock King. And that felt more traditional, but notably he did use that language. I will offer you my blessing, and we will be able to achieve far more than you would have otherwise. So
yeah, that's true. All right, so wrapping up the T-Hole line and everything. Sometime earlier in this part, T-Hole had agreed to help Kettle as well, and he goes and talks to her here towards the end, or at some point, and she's basically telling him all about like there's good guys underground that want to help us, but they can't get out. There's bad guys that if they do get out, it's probably going to be bad. And there's some lady that's like, "Oh, come down! I've got little candies for you, little girl." And he's like, "Probably shouldn't listen to that one. I don't think it's a good idea." Which I thought was funny, but basically at the end we find out the Azath, it has died. So bad. These things are going to be released, good and bad. We'll talk about Udinas's vision, because I think it's going to play a part here for me at least. This is an Azath house, like who? So actually, sorry, it's not going to play a part, but because you're thinking these bad guys are like Karsa. What are they?
Tobagai. Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, why do you think that they're bad?
Well, she says they're bad.
Oh, but aren't they like, we're gonna destroy everything? Like, aren't they basically saying like we're bad?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, we don't know. We know it from Kettle's perspective, but I believe that it specifically said they are Tobagai.
Okay. Oh, it did. It actually said it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, I missed that.
They're Tobagai. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious to see.
No, I wasn't like speculating over what they might be. I'm pretty sure like it was like, and they are Tobagai.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious like why they're there, why they're mad. Because at some point I was like, oh, later in the vision they talk about how they they were imprisoning. They'd already imprisoned Ruin, right? Ruin was in an Azath house, and then they were going to imprison Daughter Dusk as well. The two other daughters.
Yep.
We're going to throw her in there, and I could, wrongfully imprisoned for a very long time. I could see them coming out and being like, "Fuck this!" Like we're going to be going on a rampage. But I do think these are probably not them. I'm guessing.
Probably not. I think it has something to do with and again blanking on names all of a sudden, but the we had the Jagoot, so we had Trell, not Troll, but Trell, and then from oh my gosh, man. From the second book.
The two dudes. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Trell and not Icarium.
Icarium. I think it's got something to do with Icarium personally, because we know he's involved in the Tobakai's history because of the bone writings that Karsa found, and we also know that he was specifically obsessed with the Azath houses because we met his dad, and his dad is one of the guardians in the Azath houses.
Yeah.
So that's my guess, is that I think it's something to do with Icarium, who I believe Icarium is Jagoot.
I think so,
and that's kind of one of the things, is like they're always like restless,
because it was like Mappa was the other one, right?
Yeah, but notably we have like the Thalaman Toblakai, which are like the same race, and they're not the same as Jagu, but they're like cousins. So I do wonder if there's like, I do wonder like what kind of relationship we might learn more about between them.
Aren't the Barghast also like similar as well?
They're also like cousins, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think it may have something to do with the Icarium. I don't know, but I'm wondering.
Yeah.
And it seems like these dudes are not good news.
Yeah.
And
but there are some
might
people
just be
in
upset.
There seem like that were like help, like I want to help, but I can't get out kind of thing. Which
well, and I do wonder if like the protector, like the guardian, because we know every Azath house is a guardian.
That's true.
Like the uncle might just be like the guardian of the Azath house, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Who knows it's dying? Who knows it can't do its job anymore? But they're trapped there just like everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and this is also just good information as far as like, I think I just intuited that like the Azath house is obviously keeping them there, but it's not like they die with it. We now know if an Azath house dies, they are released. They are just free, which is really interesting. But yeah, that's kind of where we leave that storyline off, is like they're gonna get out. They're gonna get out in Lether, notably as like this other like Shadow Wraith army maybe is gonna converge there. Also, while really important players have left this city to go to the Great Meeting, Garen's gone. Garen is gone.
Yep. We know for a fact because his name was mentioned on the boats that arrived at High Village. So we know he's gone.
And then I guess the very, very last thing is there's maybe a couple things more. This isn't going to be a short video. We failed already. This was the short storyline. I was like, I'll talk about going to the brothel.
We're like an hour in. Well, yeah, you guys talking about the brothel, so that's going to take a little longer.
Yeah. There's a couple things that happen. One with Bryce, and I did find it funny, just a notable thing where the consort is like, hey, you got to go talk to the Sita about him and the Chancellor's feud. And he's like, all right. And he goes to Sita and he's like, you guys are feuding. He's like, we are? He's like, yeah, you guys are feuding. He's like hanging from the roof.
He's upside down.
Yeah.
He's trying to study gravity from a theoretical perspective by hanging upside down.
He's like, yeah, well, go find out what we are arguing about, because it's another one of those things that's just like, a funny kind of relationship, but I like it. But that is the kind of the moment where I think Bryce is starting to wonder like what his role is, and then he goes to talk to T-Hole, which I really liked their whole conversation, especially with like, well, we kind of know what Hull is gonna do, and it's like if Hull does this, they will kill Hull, and I am obliged to kill my brother's killers, but my brother's killers are work for the king, and I work for the king. So what do I do? And T-Hole, like, to me, this felt out of character for T-Hole, but in the best way. He is like, I will avenge him. Like, I will step in and do that. Like, I was like, oh, hell yeah, T-Hole, let's go. Like, that's sick. But that's also the conversation when he's like, you got to treat politics and intrigue as a duel. And that's kind of where we leave Bryce. And I am excited for him as a character a lot, actually. Bryce, to see where that goes.
Yep. He definitely feels like he could be, again, like one of those surprise characters, like a Kovian, right? A Coltane.
He better
right?
not get turned into a bird. I swear to God. I swear to God.
I mean, now that you've said that, we have a 50-50 shot. I mean,
know.
He's either...
We do have the guy turn into a Wyval. It's close. Unon's just about to fly away at the end of this book. So yeah, I think, unless you got anything else for that storyline, like I said, it is my least favorite. Still, I would say it's my least favorite, but as far as excitement going into the next part, I've already been excited for all the other plot lines, and I continue to be excited. But this one is like my biggest like discrepancy or like gap from like I wasn't that excited really, but now I'm like, ooh, it's about to heat up. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Cool. Well, let's talk about the side quest first, and then we'll bring it back with Hyroth. This one, I think, we actually
go for it.
Huh?
It's one of your favorites, so go for it.
I did really like it, yeah, but I do think we could probably be fairly concise about this. The Sengar brothers and the Buns, the My Dick Bun. Come on, My Dick Bun. Anyways, so they're going across the ice plains. They, rappel down into this cave or whatever. They find other people are there or had been there. And basically they learn about these people called the Jek who are hunting. They're bad. They have to, stick together. They only hunt when they're alone. And then
they're soul-taking wolves.
Yeah, which we then learn later on are soul-taking wolves, which is sweet. But the biggest notable thing is that on one night they are sleeping. They're taking turns, keeping up and keeping watch. And Troll wakes up and finds Rulad, who it was his turn to be the watch, and he has fallen asleep. And this is like a big no-no because you've let your whole crew down. You were there to like build trust. You immediately lose all your trust. He tries to deny it, which at first I was like, maybe he didn't actually fall asleep. He's like, I didn't. I was like, oh, maybe there was like some magic going on. But I think he just fell asleep. I think the Jek had come in and taken all their food, so now they're out of food, so they're desperate. But they finally make it to this like pillar of ice, essentially, and there's a sword in it. And so, they're basically going to retrieve it. They talk about it. They say, don't forget, don't touch it, kind of thing. And Benedus basically like magics Troll's spear with the souls of the wraiths of the Eeyore to like stab into the ice, which is really cool, especially because Troll is like, well, what are our ancestors gonna think about, like, because they're gonna die. Basically, they know when he thrusts that spear in, they will die performing this task to retrieve the gift. And Troll's like, well, why are they gonna be okay with that? And Benedus is like, by the way, yeah, those aren't our ancestors. Like Benedus knows, which is really interesting. And Troll's like, this whole part, Troll's like, doubt is creeping in. And right as they're about to do it, this wolf is like way across the plains, like staring at them, and then starts charging. And then all these Jek show up. They get they break the spear. I also thought it was notable that Hanan Masag's vision, because at one point Troll's like, well, he's seen us getting it, so like we're good, right? And Benus was like, well, actually his vision ends with the pillar of ice like shattering. So we know that it shatters and is freed, but his vision ended there, so we don't know what happens after that. In which we find out the Jek attack, and they're fighting him off. It's not looking good. And then Rulad grabs the sword and kills a couple of the Jek, and then dies. It is killed by the Jek, and so then the Jek like peace. They peace out. The ones that remain alive, I think, run away, and so they begin their journey home. They can't remove the sword. They find out can't remove the sword from his hands, his dead hands, and they think it's frozen. We're in the frozen waste. It probably just froze onto his fingers, and it'll thaw out. And so they put him on a sled and they start going back. And this part got really trippy for me with Troll, it felt like a fever dream. It was written so well, I think, of like I think writing a snowstorm kind of thing and that kind of confusion could be, I imagine, really hard. But I felt like I was right there of like, he's just losing track of them. He's turned around. Is he dreaming? He keeps having these fights with these Jack, badass fights at that too. At some point he's convinced this is not real. He's just dying. Like he's gotten lost and he's dying. But then he does find the party, and we find out it was real. All of it's real. His sword is, or spear, or whatever, is all dented and stuff, and like it was real. He just had a cool moment. I don't know if there's really too much significance to that. I'm curious to hear what you think. I think it just was cool. But
I think it was just an interesting part of the journey, and like notably the other guys like actually thought that Troll was like basically playing the role of his distraction.
Yes, like sacrifice.
And then he was like, "Nope, I was just trying to find you guys. And they had to come after me." Yeah.
Yeah. But and then they so really then they go back to High Roth Village. Is there anything you're before we move on from that? Kind of a simple storyline. Great storyline though. I thought that it was one chapter. The full chapter was their journey. I thought it was really, really excellent. Like just page turning. I thought it was great. And then they make it back. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I mean, I think it is like, I think it is notable and interesting, obviously, that Rulad would be the one to grab the gift. And I think that there is like that is kind of set up for us where he is the one who throws caution to the wind. Like he's the one who has trouble with authority. Like it makes sense that,
and he has something to prove now too. Fall asleep on watch.
Yeah, and so it makes sense that like of all the characters, he would be the one who would be like, oh well, this is a sword. Like I'm going to use it. Doesn't matter that somebody told me that part of the mission is not to touch it, right? Like that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is proving myself.
Yeah.
So
he does die blooded, technically. And so that's why they are bringing him back to, fear is very, very set on, he died a blooded warrior. We need to give him a proper burial kind of thing.
Well, again, and notably the Jekker soul taken. So like, we don't know if this is one of those situations where like, if you go in the wilds and like you kill a wolf or you kill a bear or whatever, then that would be considered blooded. We don't know, but the Jekker soul taken, which means that he has taken down a warrior.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't know they're soul taken at this point. I think they find out later. I can't even remember if they find out or we, the readers, find out through a different conversation.
No, they know, because like they know at least by the time they get back to High Roth, because Troll specifically is troubled by the fact that they're soul taken, because he talks about how the fact he's very confused as to how the Jekker soul taken, because he always thought soul taken was something very special, that it was like the dragons, and now he views it as like almost like an axe, like it's just like a the term isn't blood instrument, but like an axe is always considered like the peasant's weapon because anybody can use an axe, whereas like a skilled duelist is the one who can use a sword, right? And he just kind of uses it as like almost like a blunt instrument now. He's like, it's crazy, it's barbaric, it's wild, it doesn't have the same kind of meaning or value. It feels weird to view these like barbarians as being soul taken.
Yeah.
And so he definitely knows, and they know before they make that whole stand about, hey, he's a blooded warrior. Then like he's taken down Jack, he is therefore blooded.
So do you think? I think at one point he starts like speculating on why the Jack want that sword so badly. I feel like he's just wrong. I think they were protecting it more so. Personally, I don't know. It didn't. Maybe it was they wanted, and they were just waiting for someone to break the pillar. But it did feel like they were like more protecting it from someone else taking it. For me, but I'm curious to know if we ever will find out, or if it doesn't matter.
I think that, I think for me, I think that makes sense, because presumably if they're seeking the sword, then they might know what it is. But if they know what it is, right, then it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, why didn't they break it open first? Why would they wait?
It took really special, like Benedus had to bless Troll's spear with like the shadows of their ancestors, so it did take a very special type of magic to break it. So maybe that's
fair. That's fair. They need someone to break it open, but like they would know. Presumably, they would know that somebody claims it, then they won't be able to get it. Which they do run away.
Yeah.
After Roulette claims it, so it could be the case that they're sort of waiting around for the day. It could be they're protecting it. I think either way it still works because from Troll's perspective, right? Like he can speculate and be wrong. Like he's just a character in the story. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
So
which I think probably is the case here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, there was one other thing.
I mean, it would also explain why
Forgot.
the Warlock King is sending that particular party of warriors. Because they're very, I mean, they're high nobility. Like you don't just send them off on anything. Like he sent the commander of his forces on a mission to. I mean, it makes sense if he suspects that there will be dangerous warriors protecting it. It makes sense that he sends some of his strongest swordsmen out there.
I think he also had the. I don't know. I guess I don't know if the vision involved him seeing who was sent, but I think now we know the crippled god in him had made a deal, and the crippled god had given him this vision of this gift. So I don't know if in that vision he showed him who he was sending, or he just was like, I know I got to get it. I'm going to send my best kind of thing. And I do remember now when they're underground, there was a really cool like scene or whatever of like basically like a frozen like wall of ice with like animals in it, and like some of them were like half out basically, and that reminded me a lot of I think it was Memories of Ice in the beginning, almost like the prologue. There's like the big pits with like the frozen animals, and I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of that. And kind of didn't we figure out we're somewhat, are we near the Rent? I'm curious to know where we are, because where in the beginning, in the prologue, we think that that's the body of water that happens in but that's a different continent. That's a different continent. So how can it be? Because if you look on like the map, this is like its own continent.
Right, but we don't know that they went to that place here.
What do you mean?
Or do we? Is that the specific place?
I guess I don't know. It's like this map is a little like, I guess I don't know where anything else is relative to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just curious of like, where are we in the world? Does this place? The thing is, like, this is oh, you're saying you don't well, I was assuming the beginning scene takes place where we are throughout this book, because there's like they uncover like the arrow on the beach and things like that. It seems like it's some place similar or the same place, for me at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like where. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I'm curious. That could have just been like Mail we know, bodies of water. I'm assuming almost everywhere kind of froze with that ritual that the Jagat did. So yeah, I guess I don't know, but I'm not sure it truly matters. But it was kind of cool to be like, oh, that was a similar place. Is this the same place? These ice fields, is that just the same place we started in Memories of Ice? Yeah. But I think we figure out this is only a few years before Memories of Ice. Like it's like right before the beginning of Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah.
So it can't have been that different. It's not like oh, was that in this book or some different book where like almost like a Pangea thing? Didn't that happen? Did they talk about that in this one?
Yeah, that was the world at one point.
Yeah, okay. Pangea. Yeah, which that's interesting too. Of like some of these places may have been next to each other at some point in time that have now split. But notably here, I don't think that's the case. Although the prologue happens a long ass time ago to where it could have been. But anyways, they make it back, and basically immediately Hanan Masag is like, bro, I need that sword. And they're like, well, it's in a blooded warrior's hand, so no. He's like, we'll just cut off the hand. And they're like, let me say that again. It's in a blooded warrior's hand, so no. We're going to do the proper burial rituals. And their dad is getting kind of heated. Meanwhile, Udanas is like kind of watching this. he's kind of just he really. I'm trying to think if he does anything notable in this entire part. He's kind of just like a bystander
he's
till the
Lothar's
end.
slave. I mean, he really can't.
Yeah,
do
yeah.
anything.
But he has some like major things in the first part. But where we leave off, I think he's setting up to be a pretty important player as well.
Yep.
But really, I guess he's the one that dresses Roulade. So they basically say you alone.
Which is not a novel thing. We did see that in book 1 that he was doing that for somebody else as well. So
yeah,
we know that is part of his duties.
And it's the family that he works for, so it kind of it makes sense. But so he's dressing them, he's putting the coins on them. They at some point he's got some other people helping him because they want to like steal the money. He's like, no, he waxes them, and at some point,
I think the ones that are bringing. I think they're the one bring him the stuff. Like they bring him the wax. They bring him
the coins and stuff. Yeah, probably. Yeah, it makes sense. But he's like actually doing this stuff by himself because he's like in the room alone waxing him when he just basically like wakes up screaming, which is awesome. I guess we got to talk about Roulade before in the in between kind of thing. It's also a pretty short scene though. Roulade just meets the crippled god. And it's like, what happened?
Yeah, and Wither, right?
And Wither, yeah, Wither's the one that finds him kind of washed up on the shore, and brings him to the crippled god.
Yep, and we know that this is one of the things that's related to the sword. The sword's special purpose, like one of the special attributes, right? Is that the bearer will become stronger with each death.
Yep, which is sick and terrifying. Because basically unkillable now, but wanting to die. Which is really interesting. But yeah, I think at that point we kind of find out where he's like, yeah, bro, your master Hanan Masag. Yeah, he betrayed me, and so you are gonna be my guy now, basically. And then he sends it back, and he wakes up screaming.
Yep.
Which was sweet. I feel like notes of horror in this scene, which I thought were really good.
Yep.
I thought that was cool, and then from there, we're kind of jumping around. High is a little tough because there's the Saren, the Aquator, and Baruch who are there. There's Udinas, because I guess maybe we got to start even before that, right? Because Saren and them, they meet with Saren, Hull, and Baruch meet with Hanan Masag. He's like eating dinner and he has them in, and really the important thing about that conversation is at some point he dismisses Saren because that's her role. She's not supposed to hear their plans, so she's not biased or something at a certain point. So he sends her out, but she leaves knowing he wants peace. This is good. Like thumbs up. Hanan wants peace.
And notably, Hull kind of vanishes after that.
Hull just like leaves. Yeah, he's just gone. But she seemed pretty confident he'd be back for the great meeting.
Yep. But there's still a concern that he is still pursuing war.
Yes.
Because he believes that there is a way to have war between Lotharis and the Tissaeder, where the Tissaeder win.
Mm-hmm. Also, when they arrive, this is kind of when Mayan blesses the Narek, which is normally a job reserved for the Warlock King. She just does it, and people like Unas and Featherwitch are like, "What? Like that's crazy. That's crazy that she did that." Which is I found just to be interesting. Again, putting an emphasis on like blessing is that this is important. And then Wither shows Unas scenes of the past, which is really interesting. A couple things. The first thing is we see another flying fortress, the Kachain Shamal flying fortress showing up, and it's just like the people there seeing it.
Yep.
And then the other scene is with like it's Menendor and Dapple dragging the almost lifeless body of Dusk, who is I wrote some weird notes just because I'm like, all right, I gotta know who's who. So Menendor and Dapple drag the almost lifeless body of Dusk, who is also Sheltatha Lore, who is also Scabandari's daughter, before Dapple and Menendor's father, Osric. And basically...
And Osric is the father of the Tista
Leosin.
Leosin.
Yes.
And also Lork specifically.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And he's been off like fighting with Animander Rake when he shows up in this.
Fighting alongside Animander.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. They
Okay.
traveled together.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So then I also wrote,
Yeah.
again, this may or may not make sense. It says we learn of the mother, Tiam, and how she continuously died and was reborn, all the while giving birth to many children. Didn't need. I think she was able to do it without a father as well.
Yep, and that is like the god.
The god of the
grandmother, the grandmother, the mother, the daughter. I think she's related to that.
Interesting.
That's like their story of how that happened.
So this is the history of the Teast, who are not Narek, but this is what the Narek believe as well.
But this is the Narek believe. They have some shared cultural significance.
I see.
Yeah.
Then Ostrich just becomes a dragon, pieces out, and the sisters plan on bringing Dusk into the Azath house with Ruin. We also learn that Dusk birthed 2 children with Draconis, whose names were Spite and Envy, who we know. I'm assuming Lady Envy is one.
That's Lady Envy. Draconis is her father,
as well.
which we know that. He's stuck in the sword, Dragon of Purr, which is carried by Animander Rank. And Animander and Ostrich travel together. That's how they know this whole group.
Yeah.
Well, yep.
So he's, for whatever reason, Wither is intentionally giving this information to Udanas.
Yeah. And then also kind of one last thing as well. Yes. Draconis is one of the 3 alongside, was it Nightchill? And then one of the 3 who cursed Calor.
Yes.
And that was Draconis, Nightchill, and then the Shaper of Dreams, the one who's buying Croup, whose name also starts with a K. But his like veins are like the Warrens.
I can't remember. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But those 3 were, I mean, and so that's also kind of what makes me think like it was like Galor, like the first Empire, because like that's like way back when, like, but it's also kind of the same time or period we talk about these characters. Maybe not. I'll have to like I have to look back at our notes, but yeah. So there's like this is dipping into a long history that is going all the way back, really. I mean, to the Gardens of the Moon. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It is really cool. But as far as why Udanas is being told this, we don't know yet, really.
Yeah.
So then I put the reading time. I think I do this on my phone, so it auto-corrects a lot of things. And
Karul is the other one.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's Karul, and then there was Karuli, who is the priest.
Who then it turns out to
be... Yeah. Right, but then Karuli turns out to be Karul.
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, wait, how do we not,
Yep. So then Featherwitch reads the tiles in a really crazy moment. I kind of want to, I don't know how you feel. I feel like we should read this because it is dense. You want to read the tile? I do want to read the tile reading. Maybe at the end we can just every line is significant, and I want to see if while I was reading it, I was like, I can't keep up. I'm gonna write down the pages, and we can talk about it because it does very much feel like a big prophecy.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good one. And
yeah.
So kind of moving forward from there, right? I mean, I think we can kind of summarize a lot of this to say that these are essentially how the moving pieces are going, where you have the party from Letherus, who has now met with the Warlock King. They've done their due diligence by establishing contact. The Hole, who's the wild card, is now missing. We do have kind of a cool, like, between Baruch of the Pale and also Aquitaine. Like, they're having a cool conversation, which cracked me up, by the way, because, like, any guy who's been in a relationship for any length of time, like, knows that feeling when you have, like, you got some shit to say and you got to say it. Okay, I'm not trying to be misogynistic, but like you gotta say it to a woman, and you're like, this is a coin toss. Like am either gonna get my point across, and it might be good, or I'm just dead. So he's just like, he pops the cap. He's like, I can't hold back, so I'm just gonna swing this, and I'm gonna say what I have to say. And if she ends up killing me, then so be it. But yeah, that just cracks me up because what was
it that they says?
Well, so she's like moping. Right. And she part of the reason why she's moping, which he says, right, is that she's really concerned for Hole, right, in this whole thing. And so, and he basically is talking about how, as her role, like being neutral, you can't really be neutral if you're emotionally tied to the outcome of the situation, right? That's like an impossible ask. But yet she has to be neutral, and she is emotionally tied. Like what happens with Hole, what happens with Letherus, like she cares, and she's like beating herself up, like moping about this whole situation. And so he's trying to kind of get through to her. And now, granted, he's maybe not the best person. Like the guy who travels in a caravan with his own sort of like brothel, um, but like he, he's not maybe not the best person, but like he is sharing some wisdom, and we do know that he is someone who's gone through a lot of trials and tribulations. That's why he has a bit of a guilty conscience in this whole situation, and so he is just trying to like genuinely share some sincere wisdom because he hurts to see her moping like this. But also he's like, he just like, he's just like, this is maybe I'm about to lecture essentially, and this is probably not going to go very well. So here's one to go down, and notably it does go pretty well. And I think it's kind of a moment where like we kind of see the characters come closer together, which is really interesting, right? Because they didn't really like, she kind of started with a pretty sour opinion of him because he was traveling with like courtesans,
and we did too. Probably because
yeah,
I mean, I think
yeah,
at least partially because we're reading it through her eyes,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah. But like notably, she's having a difficulty through this, and he is trying to like challenge her to grow, or more importantly, to make an important decision about whether or not like this is something that she should be doing.
She does a
Right?
lot of like philosophizing in this part
Mm-hmm.
on war, on
Yeah,
slavery, on greed. She kind of hits them
yeah,
all. She hits the big
yeah.
ones.
And it's like, but you're supposed to be neutral. Like you're effectively supposed to go into this not having opinions on anything.
Yeah. I
And
would
it's just
say
like,
I remember like the I probably should have wrote down where they were, but the one on slavery I feel like until that point she was. And then she's really seeing, specifically with like Udanas and Featherwitch, she's seeing the slaves for like what they are and how it's like, well, their children are just born into
yeah,
slavery because that's how the the Lether view debt and things like that of
yeah,
like, yeah, and I think there is like she has like a bit of a turning point
yeah.
and becomes a little more biased
Yeah.
um through all of
Well,
that.
and this is the exact kind of, I mean, this is why Hull's on this adventure. Like, this is the exact kind of situation that has been the precursor to every conquest that has been initiated by the Lothari in their history. And like the signs that are very clear, especially having known Hull and seeing what's happened, like with his adventures as a ranger, like she knows exactly what this is. Like the writing is on the wall, so it's very hard to be neutral.
Mm.
And I think that's what's tough. And so rather than trying to struggle through and commit to being neutral, there's kind of this idea of like, but you're still human, like you're still a person. You have empathy. You can't just will that away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a cool moment. And anyways, I mean, Baruch might have just been, tossing one back because that's what he does. But it did feel like this kind
Some
of
liquid
situation of like,
courage.
yeah, liquid courage. Like I have to. I feel compelled. I got some shit that I gotta say. This may not go well, so here's some liquid courage because I just feel like I need to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was just cracking me up. But so we have that party, and the most important thing about this right now is that this party is going to be the one that's going to be giving information over to the prince's group, right? So not that they're in league with the prince per se, but notably they're the one who are going to reveal what's been going on around the town to specifically the first eunuch and the prince as they prepare for their first meeting. Now, of course, they do arrive. They think that they're going to be a meeting with the Warlock King, when in
I
fact
think they're
gonna
about to be
meeting.
addressed and welcomed, and yeah, and like they show
When
up and
then
no one's
they get
there.
there, it's crickets,
Yep.
right? Like basically everyone's in their homes, like slaves are just milling about. They don't know what to do. The slaves literally don't know what to do with themselves
Yeah.
because everyone is like all the important people are all in one place, and
Yeah.
all the other people are just kind of doing their thing. So there's like slaves just like standing out in the trees, literally they don't know what to do, so they're kicking rocks. Um, and so yeah, like it must be like a weird scene
Yeah.
where you're like
The
expecting
prince
to be
is not
welcomed.
stoked about it. He's
Yeah.
pissed. He's like, "What? Yeah,
Yeah.
where's my greeting?"
Yep. And so then they are going to meet, and then they, of course, have this unexpected surprise of not having any greetings, and then also they're not even meeting with the Warlock King. And then the other particular faction is that now you've got Rulad Sengar, who has come back from life, gold coins and all, who is now declaring himself the emperor of the Tista Eater.
Yeah, and I would say even more than that of like people it seems like, I mean, he is declaring himself, but it's not like I don't care what you want. He's like, kneel to me, and they do. Like Hanan Masag does. His like, I can't remember what he calls them, the Krishna or something like that. They kneel to him. Everyone kneels to him. And he's like, we're gonna do this like the right way, kind of thing.
Yep. Well, it's exactly. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Tista Eater, and specifically the monologue that we get from the crippled god. I think speaks directly to the sort of persona of the Tista Eater, that they are a people whose culture is pillared on this idea of proving yourself in battle. So, like, how does peace make sense for them?
Yeah.
Right. They're effectively sort of trying, but this kind of transition, just like it doesn't, like I said, it just doesn't make sense. And that's the vision that the Warlock King essentially has, is to try to, take this power, take this sword for his people, so that way he can ensure that Letharis will never attack them. And that's how he's make them unassailable. But like again, for like that's essentially like going back in time to Greece and telling Spartans that they have to be Spartans, but they're no longer allowed to fight. Right? It's just like that's not Sparta. The whole identity is built on being the best warriors.
Sparta?
Is it like, yeah, it'd be like Leonidas, except rather than kicking, he's just arm clapping everybody.
Yeah.
He's just like, this is Sparta.
Yeah, high five in there.
Yeah, he's got a big beer belly,
Jump up, freeze frame.
Yeah. But yeah, and like the crippled god is effectively, in a way, kind of humiliates Rulad, because he points out to him, he's like, what do all of your values matter? Like, what do they account for in your culture if your culture has peace? Like, what does that mean for you to call yourself honorable or courageous? You don't want it. Like, none of that makes sense in a culture where you will not ever fight. You will not see danger, right? And so he's effectively kind of putting it back onto them of like, you need this or you aren't what you say you are, which of course is exactly what Rulad has been trying to prove his entire life, especially with his dad, who's constantly like belittled him, right, and emasculated him. Right? And so I think it's really important that it really speaks to an identity. When he says, I will show you, I will bring you to your destiny, like I will show you where your home is, I think it's one of those things, like they all feel it, right? They're like, this is not how we're meant to be.
Yeah.
At least not based on how they've been raised, and presumably how they've been raised is a lot more traditional from a time when the Tista Eater were a lot more warlike.
Sure. There's also like a deity kind of like, he's back from the dead. Like that is also like, I mean, part of it.
that certainly isn't hurting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. But yeah, and then
he healed some people too. That
he healed Benedus, his brother. Who it's like, he's like, I'll prove it. I'm chained. Like I'm the guy. And it's literally like a Jesus healing, essentially. Like he touches Benedus, who they know, at least if anyone knows, Benedus knows that Rulad does not have access to magic. Or hasn't in the past, and then he's immediately healed. He's like, "Oh shit!" Like this dude's the real deal. Doesn't mean it's good, but it's the real deal. So yeah, they all kneel. Meanwhile, Trull is very sus the whole time. Whole time, extremely sus. And then Mayan. That's another thing that happens.
Yeah, and that was the last thing I was gonna. I mean, I like the idea that we should read through that section because I'd like to go through it again. But that was actually, I think, kind of the more pivotal thing. I mean, it happens kind of at the end too. But you have these three, and we're setting up for a negotiation. We get this very classic, like tables turned. The prince tries to set things up where they make the Teaser Eater feel undead, and the Teaser Eater
That
like,
little piece of shit. It's such bullshit too.
yeah.
He's
Well,
like,
exactly. But
oh
it's
well.
supposed to be.
I know,
It's supposed
but
to
it
be,
is.
right?
It's just like,
Yeah.
bro, you son of a bitch. Like he's
Yeah.
like, you owe us money. They're like, you
Yep.
poached our seals. He's like, yeah, we did, and now they're gone. So you actually owe us for the seal skins that we would have sold. And it's just like, well, actually,
yeah.
it's like the meme with like the it's like the church pews. There's like a guy with a gun to his back, and then another guy with a gun to the guy, you know, and then there's a guy up in the pew. So, you know, it really is. It's just like, well, actually, we don't have those seal skins either. So you actually owe us. And it's literally just like a mic drop, and everyone's like, oh shit.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But again, it goes like to the Warlock King, and like he's a very smart diplomat, right?
Yeah.
He knew exactly how the Lotharis would approach this. He was ready, and like even just says like the prince's jaw was like a puppet on puppet strings that had just been cut.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like,
yeah, for real. Just like, oh shit.
Yep. And so nothing's kind of working out for them. And and then all this is taking place. Everyone's dismissed. And then we have this, I mean, like heart-wrenching confrontation between the two brothers where Rulad, who, you know, basically has pointed out, like he even said earlier, like he expected Fear to be the first one to get it, like what Rulad was offering. And he's the first one to kneel to Rulad. And then we get this scene, and like this is how he's repaid, where Rulad is now no longer acting as this like savior figure for them, but is now just acting on his own selfish desires. He always coveted something from his brother, namely the recognition of having or being like the first betrothed, and specifically to Mayan, and he's wanted her for himself, and now he's going to act on that desire by forcing Fear to give up that betrothal. And
she does.
And he's gonna take it upon himself. Yeah.
What I found the most interesting was her reaction, because at first she calls him. He says, "Yeah, okay." Fear does, and he's like, "Come on up, you know, Mayan, come on down," and she immediately, like, no hesitation, goes. And I was like, "Oh shit, she really wanted this." But then she's got like Troll notices, like she is like in fear, like she is terrified. And I think that's kind of the moment he's like, oh fuck, we got a tyrant on our hands, like this is not good. And what did you think about that? Because I think with Mayan, I thought it was going to be more of like she thought, you know, took it upon herself to do the blessing. She's always been like, I don't know, we didn't know her enough to feel a certain way, but I thought she was going to be like, oh, she's the tyrant queen, here we go. She wants this, she wanted the power, she didn't care if she got it, she took it. But it seems like she's truly just like terrified of this situation.
I think now it's more so a situation where it feels like she was taking maybe extra liberties, or maybe being a bit careless because she was betrothed to Fear. She could always rely on, because I think Fear generally cares for her too. So I think she could always rely on the fact that she is like betrothed to the first son of the most prominent noble family, and
military
she has,
commander essentially.
Yeah, it's her. Yeah, and so she always kind of has his protection. And especially like with Rulad's intentions, like I don't think she was ignorant of his intentions, but like what's he gonna do? Like she's betrothed to Fear, he can't, you know, he can't compete, so to speak. Fear would be able to keep Rulad in check. So I just think that she wasn't making as big of a concern of that, and notably, you know, Fear is not really as aware of it, so she really wasn't making a big deal out of it. And now we're kind of seeing that like no, that actually was a big problem. That she had never addressed his inordinate desires, right, or told Fear, so that could be curbed early. And now he's in a position where the tables have turned, and he is taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm sure she feels betrayed too. As Fear's just like, okay. I mean, he's not happy about it, but he's not hesitant about it really either.
No, I think it's really fascinating that you basically Rulad, like in the writing, it's kind of interesting because Rulad asks for Maya. We see the writing on the wall. We know exactly where this is going, and then immediately goes into basically this like you son of a bitch, like how could you? Troll says, right? Which I thought was really fascinating. It's like Troll is actually the first person to have an immediate reaction to that and call it for what it is, which also I think shows us exactly how. Granted, we don't know the story is going to go, but we know where this ends for Troll.
Yep.
And it kind of seems like we know why.
Yep. It's interesting too, because in the beginning of House of Chains with Troll, he's chained there because he says his people are looking for something. So at some point they're gonna be looking for something else. I don't know what, but
or this is what it is. It's like Rulad's like what the destiny is, right?
Yeah, maybe, because it may seem like they were looking for something in particular, like an item or something. They were searching for something specific. But yeah, I don't remember. But the last thing,
I just wouldn't be surprised if Rulad's vision, so to speak, given to him by the crippled god of their destiny, is to go claim a throne.
Oh yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think it is.
And then that's what Troll is opposing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Really, I would say unless there's something else you want to add after, but I do think it's worth noting for Udanas. At one point, I don't really get why, but he's like about to commit suicide. He's just like gonna let the waves take him away and die. For some reason, this is after he's gotten the vision. I don't really know. Yep. I don't know if he's just terrified of Rulad coming back to life. This is after that as well. Not exactly sure. Or if you have any insight.
Yeah. I just saw it as like he knows that now he's like Rulad's slave and he's not happy about that. And he just kind of figures with how things have gone, it might just be easier.
But this is like kind of before even that. I mean, like I guess technically.
No, because remember he like wants to leave and because he's so exhausted. And they're like, hey, Rulad specifically asked for you. Couldn't you just stay a little bit longer? And then it's like made abundantly clear to him, like, you're Rulad's guy now.
Well, at some point, so like he's about to kill himself, and he gets the Wyval ghost thing.
Yep.
Basically picks him up, saves him, and then Wither specifically says he instructs Udanas to go to the Citadel because they want him to be a very important person to Rulad.
Well, Wither does. Wither wants him to play his role.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he's like, you are his important person. Like, you need to play that role.
Yeah, yep. So let's see. I think that's really all I wrote. Instructs Udanas to go to the Citadel, where Rulad instructs. Oh yeah, so basically like that's where Rulad tells Udanas to go get the delegation and bring them, and that's when they kind of have that first meeting about the seals. I did, you did, and the whole thing with Trait. So now I forgot that Trait is really like the land in contention here, which is also where those wraiths have been dropped off. So maybe Trait becomes an important place. Instead of Lether, it's like this in between. And then basically like meeting ends and they're gonna reconvene later. So it's like the prequel to the Great Meeting kind of thing, or like day one of the Great Meeting.
Yeah, effectively that's what it is, right? So it's the first day of negotiations, right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let me find where I wrote down the pages. All right, 291 to 293. Anything else before we get into this?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Looking forward to, or?
I mean, I'm really looking forward to see how this negotiation goes forward. Like, Rulad is totally unexpected as far as like a character turn goes. I'm very interested to see how this goes now.
I could see him just killing the prince personally.
I mean, somebody's dying at this meeting.
Definitely dying. And the thing that was interesting too was that like the eunuch almost like the prince. You think the prince, he walks up, he's like, "Where is everyone? No one's greeting me." And then like as soon as something important happens, he turns to the eunuch of like, oh, the eunuch's the guy in charge here, not the prince. He's just the brat.
The prince is just all bark. Like he knows he has like no authority, right?
Yep. All right. Let's see if I can figure out where. It is a bit long, so we may have to. All right, so I'm just going to start kind of where I think it starts. So, sudden silence as Featherwitch closed her eyes and lowered her head, her yellow hair closing over her face like twin curtains. Shudder, then drew a breath. Yep. The beginnings swept upon her with its mask of terror, twisting her features into something primal and chilling. She was, Udanas knew, gazing upon the abyss, suspended in the vast oblivion of all that lay between the stars. There were no makers yet, nor the worlds they would fashion. Okay. And now the Fulcra, fire, dolmen, and the errant. The errant who gives shape to the holds. And this part's weird because that what I just read is italicized, but not a quote. Then, speaking, she says, "Walk with me to the holds." The Lethrai slaves loosed long-held breaths. All right, so here we go. We stand upon dolmen, and all is as it should be. Yet there was a strain to her voice. To live is to wage war against the abyss. In our growth, we find conquest. In our stagnation, we find ourselves under siege. And in our dying, our last defenses are assailed. These are the truths of the beast hold. Which, by the way, I didn't preference this with, she's going through all the holds. She goes through every hold. So just things like, I feel like that's important, just of like, these are the truths of the beast hold. I'm like, all right, lock that in. Blade and Knuckles, not Sonic, but those are other other holds or people. I at some point I was back and forth a lot because in the back of my book it talks about each hold and the people in it. Because remember we were thinking about like the holds maybe are kind of like the houses, possibly.
Yep.
So we've got the Beast hold. Which one she's talking about with Knuckles? They are in here somewhere. Oh, it's interesting. Really interesting, actually. I'm some of these I'm looking at. So like the Dragon hold, the top is the Queen, then the Consort. There's the Knight, the Wyval is in there as well. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, the Fulcra is considered unaligned, and within the Fulcra are the Errant, the Dolmen, Blade, Knuckles. All of these are in the Fulcra hold. Whatever that means. But yeah, so she's saying we stand upon the dolmen. She's not talking about a hold. She's just talking about the fulcra. Because she says, and now the fulcra, fire, dolmen, and fire is one as well. So fire is one, dolmen is one, and the errant are all under the fulcra, which I think it's making it seem like everyone in the fulcra is unaligned. They're not within a specific hold. So yeah, to live is to wage war against the abyss, and our growth is in sorry, I think the abyss is in here as well. Maybe not. The Azath. So Blade and Knuckles, the war we cannot escape. Age has clawed the face and gouged the eyes of the elder. He is scarred and battle ravaged. Crone, and Crone is in the beast hold now, so we're in the beast hold. Crone cackles with bitter spit and twitches with dreams of flight. Seer, also in the beast hold. Seer's mouth moves, yet there are none to hear. Shaman, also in the beast hold, wails the weft of the dead in fields of bone, yet believes none of the patterns he fashions from those scattered remains. Which, like, I mean, I don't know if you're getting the vibes for this. All of this is like, Kovian Memories of Ice is giving me those vibes.
Especially remember, they resurrect the beast hold.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Yep. So she's like prophesizing this because that's not happened yet.
Yep, correct.
Which is pretty cool. So yeah, Shaman wails the weft of the dead in fields of bones, yet believes none of the patterns he fashions from those scattered remains. Tracker, also beast hold, walks his steps assured and purposeful to belie that he wanders lost. So, how much time do you want to spend on this? Because I feel like I'm like, all right, so Shaman, Itkovian. Locked it, right? That's a given. Blade and Knuckles, I don't know about them because they're
from the Fulcra.
They're from the Fulcra, yeah, exactly. But we've got Crone, cackles with bitter spit, and twitches with dreams of flight. Is it our bird boy? Is it our bird boy?
Well, it could be, but also like, wasn't Crone the name of the crow that works for Animander?
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, I guess it could have. Just let my bird boy get something. Come on.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But it is worth noting that the white crow is a part of the Folkra, which notably has been featured now. So,
yep. So Seer's mouth moves, yet there are none to hear.
mm-hmm.
Most of these I don't know. I'm just curious if you're like, oh yeah, that's that. And I'm just like, oh yeah. Kovian I got. And then Tracker walks his steps assured and purposeful to belie that he wanders lost. One of those could be the talk guy, or it could be the guy that's with Trake now, the tiger guy. I don't know. But that's the Beast Hold. So we're done with the Beast Hold. She fell silent, muttered voices in the crowd. There's a cold invitation into the holds. Errant guard. This is Udnas thinking. Errant guard us. We are in trouble. Dread trouble. Hulad plucked at his arm, who was another slave we didn't talk about, but gestured to the far wall. Blah 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 blah. Yep. Okay. Featherwitch began speaking once more. Bone Perch now stands as a throne that none shall occupy. So, for its shape has become inimical to taming. So, what do you think about that? Because I've got no idea.
Bone Perch?
Yeah, Bone Perch stands as a throne that none shall occupy.
Well, there is the empty hold and has the empty throne.
Yep. The throne's back is now hunched, the ribs drawn downward, the shoulder blades steep and narrow. The arms upon which a ruler's arms would rest are risen now, each in the visage of a wolf, and in their eyes burns savage life. Oh, sorry, this is still the hold of the beast. She paused, then intoned, the hold of the beast has found twin rulers, which we know that from Memories of Ice.
Yep.
Then Sarah says that's impossible. And before us now, the hold of the Azath. All right, so now we're moving to the next hold. Its stones bleed. The earth heaves and steams. A silent, unceasing scream shakes the branches of the ancient trees. The Azath stands besieged. That's it for the Azath. So what do we think about that? It stands besieged. And technically this is before Kettle tells us the Azath is dead.
Yep.
So do you think she's just prophesizing that, basically, Azath's about to die?
Yeah. Also, like, the story that we heard with the Carrium, that kind of I mentioned earlier, it does make it seem like there are forces that will work against the Azath for whatever reasons, right?
Well, there was also, like, in House of Chains, in that field, there was the giant tree on top of the Azath. And this mentions a tree as well, so I didn't know if it was, like, maybe that one specifically. A silent, unceasing scream shakes the branches of the ancient trees. I can't remember. It told us what that Azath house held. I just don't remember. The one that Karsa goes and visits and gets his horse there and stuff. He meets the tree.
Yeah.
I just don't remember what it was holding, but I wonder if it's that. And then she moves on to the ice hold. Ice hold, she says. Although, yeah, so ice hold. Riven tomb. Corpses lie scattered before the sundered threshold. And then she says, Urkwal Jagathon Tes Malas, which Jagat's in there. Ice makes sense. They are not here to mend the damage. They are forgotten, and the ice itself cannot recall the weight of their passage. Anything? I'm assuming most of this we're supposed to just be like, I kind of have.
I would imagine because they've been exterminated.
The Jagats?
Yeah.
And then Saren asks, what language was that? Unas replies, Jagat. And she goes, what's a Jagat? And he shrugs, the forgers of the ice, Aquator. It is of no matter, they are gone. Oh, yeah, yep. And then she moves on. The hold of the dragon. Eliant Tiam, who was that mother. Puraki Satoram and Braille Buras. And then Unas goes, those are draconian words. Suddenly reveling in his secret knowledge. And he says, children of the mother Tiam, lost in all that they surrendered. More or less, the poetry suffers in translation. Okay. The Eliant would destroy all in their paths to achieve vengeance. As we all shall see in the long night to come. The queen, and remember, the queen is like just a person in that hold.
Yep.
The queen lies dead and may never rise again, and may never again rise. Do we any ideas who the queen is? Okay. The consort writhes upon a tree and whispers with madness of the time of his release. The interesting. The liege is lost.
Who whispers for the time of the release?
The consort.
Hmm.
Rise upon a tree.
Because remember, the Elaint are they're the dragons.
Dragons. And there was a crucified. I don't know if a crucified dragon. It's wood. Does that count as a tree?
Yes, it does.
So we think it's that maybe.
It could be. I mean, I would say so.
Okay.
Because that's especially popular as a allegory in like Western, Western writing, because we often say like Christ was crucified upon a tree.
Okay. Then it's probably definitely that.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Interesting. Then the liege is lost, dragging chains in a world where to walk is to endure, and where to halt is to be devoured. So we definitely know that one. That's Draconis. Because he's stuck in the sword where
he's got to keep moving.
They got to keep moving.
Otherwise, yeah.
Yep. So he's the liege. The liege. The knight strides his own doomed path, soon to cross blades with his own vengeance.
Yep.
Who's that one?
And he did. So vengeance is the name of the sword that Animanarank gave up. Remember when
But the liege and the knight are two different people.
I know, but remember that Animandarake had vengeance as his sword before he took Dragnipur from Draconis.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be in reference to Animander, because Draconis is currently trying to get freed from Dragnipur.
So you think Animander's the knight,
or
he's going to cross blades with his own vengeance, his own old sword?
Yep, right. Because now somebody else has that sword.
Yeah, so he's gonna have to cross paths with his own vengeance.
And right. And this isn't like he from Night Mother Dark.
Yeah, I think so. He's a T standee.
Yeah.
And then Gate, that's another person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, yeah, Gate is. Gate rages with wildfire. That's all it says about Gate. And then Wyval, her head snapped back as if struck by an invisible hand, and blood sprayed from her mouth and nose. She gasped, then smiled a red smile. Loqui Wyval waits. Yeah, whatever that means. I mean, I'm assuming she's struck by an invisible hand. That's the ghost Wyval, right?
I assume so, yeah.
It's like straight up there. And then the lady and the sister dance around each other, each on her own side of the world. Which, by the way, Wyval at this point, to me, is feeling like just an Elliot. That's just the title, Wyval. You know what I mean?
A Wyval is a name of a person within the Dragonhold. It's a name of it's a title within Dragonhold. But the Elaine are people, like they're the dragons.
Yeah, but all of these are Elaines too. Like all these titles are Elaines.
Oh, I think all of them refer to character. I think most, if not all of them, refer to characters that are Elaine.
Yeah, because I think just when he first got bit by it and was infected, I was like, what is a Wyval? It's just like a little dragon kind of thing. But I think it's just like referring to the title, but is also a dragon, an Elliot.
Yep.
So yeah, the lady and sister dance around each other, each on her own side of the world.
Yep.
Don't know that. Blood Drinker waits as well. Waits to be found.
Mm-hmm.
Path Shaper knows fever in his fell blood and staggers on the edge of the precipice.
That's cool.
Ah. So we think he's an Elliot.
Well, he's an elder god, but I don't think all of them have to be Elaine. But it would make sense why he traveled with Draconis now.
Yeah.
We should also then imply something about Nightchill, that if she's traveling with Karul and with Draconis, who are both members of the Dragonhold, then she might have some relationship to that hold as well.
Yeah, maybe she's Gate or the lady or the sister or something. Thus the hold, save one. And then she says the empty hold. The empty hold.
The hold, save one.
What's that?
Because the queen will never come. No, the lady. They don't talk about the lady.
I think she's saying those are all the holds. Like we've talked about the beast hold, we talked about the Azaf hold, the dragon hold, the ice hold.
But hasn't talked about the empty hold.
All but one, yeah, and then she goes into the empty hold. The empty hold has become, Feather Witch's smile broadened, very crowded indeed. Where the brothers? Listen. Blood weaves a web that will trap the entire world. None shall escape. None shall find refuge. Her right hand snapped out, spraying the ancient tiles onto the floor. From the rafters far above, pigeons burst out of the gloom, a wild, chaotic beat of wings. They circled in a frenzy, feathers skirling down. The Watchers, which are in the empty hold. It's interesting because it just says Watcher, but she's saying the Watchers stand in place as if made of stone. Their faces are masks of horror. The mistresses dance with thwarted desire. The Wanderers. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's Shadow Throne.
You think Shadow Throne is?
I think it's a shadow because the mistresses that dance with desire. I think that is the their shadow cult. It's the talking about the shadow dance.
Oh,
because it's like an erotic dance, but it also that's like how the rope oftentimes like visit people, right? We saw that with Pearl's traveling companion, and then it makes sense that he was like because remember he's like there, but he's not like the true ruler. Makes sense that he took over the empty hold. And then the pillars of stone with faces of horror could be the crucified children that he brought into the shadow.
Yeah. And then we got the Wanderers have broken through the ice, and cold darkness comes with its deathly embrace. To me, that just sounds like it could be the bone people. Who are the bone people again?
Talani Moss. Yeah, I was thinking that as well because they took over the ritual to be able to be able to go around the ice, and they brought with them death. Yeah.
So are these just? Do we think these are like races of people, or like factions? Because if you think the Watchers are like the children, made of stone.
Yeah, because they effectively could be like almost like not what's that word? It's like they're like symbols of different things. Like each of these is like a term that refers to a sign. That's the term I'm looking for. They're just basically like signs. Like each of them is a way to characterize a particular sign that they use for their prophesying.
I see. So then we have the Walkers.
Yeah,
the Walkers cannot halt in their growing torrent that pulls them ever onward. That also feels like it could be the Talani Moss, with their pledge or whatever. The Saviors, and then Saren Pedak interrupts. Oh yeah, what is she saying? She has made them all plural. The players within the hold of the empty throne. This makes no sense. And then Featherwitch comes back in. The Saviors face one another, and both are doomed. And in broken reflection, so stand the betrayers. And this is what lies before us all. Her voice trailed away with her last words, and once more her chin settled, blah, blah, blah. The pigeons overhead whipped round and round. She says, contestants to the empty throne. Blood and madness. And that's it. And then Udinas, who's been holding Saren back this whole time, he goes, she's not slept well lately, you see. But yeah, I feel like that passage, as I was reading that, I was like, it's a lot. One.
I think there's still more to be. I mean, there's still more, right? I think some of that has not all been revealed yet.
Exactly, but I think this is something we'll be coming back to for like the rest of the series. I think, which is really fun, and this is going to be one of those things that like whenever I do a reread, I'm gonna be like, oh, I know all of this. I know what this prophecy means.
Well, and that was like an important thing from the last book for House of Change is because we know that Kellanved has not sat on the throne, and it makes sense that we characterize it as an empty hold because it hasn't been claimed yet, and we know he hasn't done that because it draws too much attention.
Yep, and at the very end, like we know that the children are guarding it.
Yep.
Because in Troll is like they basically the very last thing we see with Troll is they are going to go see the throne, essentially being guided by the children in there.
Yeah, because Kellanved already sat on the throne that belongs to the Talani Mas. That's how like he commands them. That was like unexpected, right?
Yep.
Because they expected like to basically be sent on. missions to like do his bidding and like
He kind of didn't really
conquer, and he just didn't. But he sat on their throne so nobody else could.
Yep.
Or presumably, but then he can't sit on the throne of the empty holder because now if he sits on two, it's like he's basically making a statement.
Yeah, getting a mark on his back. Yep. So yeah, it's like they had speculated that like the plan was to control them all without control the thrones without sitting on them.
Because then it kind of would force everybody to work together to oppose him.
Yeah.
Because it would be an obvious statement that he is vying for power.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Yeah, I just I thought I just was like during the reading of it I was like I'm not gonna spend that much time on this, but some of them it just was cool to be like, oh, that's a Kovian. That was cool. I recognize that. Because normally I would say most prophecies, right? It's stuff that hasn't happened yet, but we have already read what's happened. Some of the stuff that's happened after this book, so it was kind of cool getting to see that.
Yep.
But all right. Any other final thoughts before we sign off?
No, I do think that we see Troll get exiled in this book. I wouldn't be surprised
like
if
in part 3 or like the whole novel.
No, in this novel, I think Troll gets exiled.
Yeah, I could see us leaving off on the bridge thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hull survives, but Aquitaine doesn't.
Aquitaine? I like the Aquitaine.
Whatever.
Aquitaine.
whatever.
Fuel up, G Fuel, Aquitaine. The Aquitaine.
Aquitaine.
Yeah, Saren Pedak.
Yes, Saren Pedak. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
You wouldn't be surprised if what?
If she dies in this one, or something bad otherwise happens to her.
Yeah. I hope not. She's shaping up to be a pretty interesting character for me.
Yeah. But yeah, I am wondering, like, I am looking at Bryce as being like our surprise character, not a surprise character per se, but like the one who rises up. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Tehol like has this like turnaround that just like we just don't see coming, because right now it seems pretty low key and he seems like a kind of a comedic character, almost like Krupp. But yeah, like I am like very excited to kind of see like which characters are going to be the standout in book 3.
Yeah.
Okay. So more so than a prediction, that's what I'm really excited for. Like I want to know who that character is going to be.
I think it's going to be Udenas personally. I think Udenas is going to undergo his transformation, if there is one, like a werewival. I think is happening, and
you don't think he's just going to turn into a little dragon and fly off?
Yeah, I think yeah, he might become Eliant or something. I don't know, but I do think that happens in part 3. I also think the prince dies. I think the prince dies pretty fast, actually.
There's gonna be like no way he makes it out of even book 3. Like I'm not
I think in book 3 he dies is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, in the part we are about to read,
I don't think he makes it out.
I think he dies basically in the next like meeting. I think he's just gonna. I think Rulad's gonna make a statement
on page 1 of book 3. Let's find out.
What's interesting, knowing this is a prequel, is that we've not heard the name Rulad at all. And if he's like going to be this big old bad tyrant, so the other thing at the end of Memories of Ice, there's the other Imas, the other like clans, and they're in oh man, I can't remember. She said they're like, oh, the rest of my people are fighting these other people in this place. Let's go. And like I think Lady Envy goes or someone goes. I'm like, could that have something to do? It was just like all this, like, oh, there's another battle happening somewhere with people we've not met yet. I wonder if it's this. Because it seems like I just feels like Rulad's going to be bigger than just dying in this book. I mean, he has to be. He can't die.
Yeah.
I mean, as of right now, he can't die.
No.
But even like the crippled god hasn't really talked about him in the future crippled god, you know?
Yep.
So he must just be off doing his bidding and on another continent, and we've just not, Malazan Empire is just not there yet or something. I do find that interesting though. But all right. We did it in less than 2.5 hours, and that was with us going through the prophecy, which took probably like 15 minutes. So I think we did pretty good.
I think so too.
All right, let's sign off. Let's get out of here. And we'll be back in a couple weeks to do part 3. I think part 3 is a little bit longer, so maybe 3 weeks for this one. or we'll kind of have to play it by ear, but maybe a little bit longer in between this video and the next video. But all right, sign off. Salute our veterans.
Well, again, thank you everybody for coming and sharing these videos. We really appreciate everybody who comes to check them out. All the people who are new to the series or have come back to kind of root us on. It really is exciting to be able to go through these with all of you. But like Matt said, it'll be a few more weeks before the next one. So until then, you all just take care. But otherwise, this has been Hobby Vomit. My name is Ian, and this is
Matt. Thanks for watching.
Okay.
See you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.